Chapter 355. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 357 Suppression. What are the rewards for the honorable quest? Chin Nan asked. Almost all the books you want to read are available. It's more stable than the usual websites, and the updates are faster too. There are no advertisements. The updates are so fast. For the opening of the Martial Ancestor Mystical Ground, the Qinglong Sacred Area and the Feiyang Sacred Area will each send 6 peak Martial Emperor Realm experts to take part in it. Apart from that, there will also be some rogue cultivators from the lower district and peerless geniuses from various countries. The custodian said, the Martial Ancestor Mystical Ground has a total of 3 spots. If you are able to secure a spot, you will be rewarded with 3 primary stones. If you are able to lead the disciples of the other 2 sacred areas to secure a spot for them, you will be rewarded with 10 primary stones. 10 primary stones. Chin Nan's eyes flickered passionately. He had robbed the city of Black Hands twice, but he had only earned 110,000 contribution points each time, which could only be exchanged for 3 primary stones a day. The reward this time was indeed great. Furthermore, Chin Nan's cultivation had reached the peak Martial Emperor realm, allowing him to take part in the trial of the Martial Ancestor Mystical Ground to secure a spot to improve his cultivation. Thanks, Senior. Chin Nan brought his fists together toward the custodian, who left the quest hall under his astonished gaze and transformed back into his true appearance. I'll take part in the trial as Chin Nan. Hopefully, the geniuses in the trial of the Martial Ancestor Mystical Ground would dare to compete with me. A calm smile appeared on Chin Nan's face. Now that his name had spread throughout the lower district, unlike before, many people would not dare to trouble him. However, if they did not even have the courage to challenge him, he would not be interested in it. Time to accept the quest. Chin Nan took out the Qinglong scroll and accepted the honorable quest. Congratulations, prospective Saint Chin Nan, for accepting the honorable quest. Now that the quota has been filled, please gather at the dojo of the Duanmu Mountain at once. A voice could be heard from the Qinglong scroll. Chin Nan took a step forward and headed toward the dojo. At the same time, in the mission hall, one of the cultivators suddenly screamed when he saw the name of the honorable quest. F***CK. Chin Nan is participating in the Martial Ancestor Secret Territory. This scream was like a clap of thunder, landing in everyone's ears. What? Haha! Those sons of bitches from the Feiyang Sacred Area are doomed this time. TSK, the Feiyang Sacred Area won the championship last year. This year, it will definitely be our Qinglong Sacred Area. All the cultivators were boiling with excitement. The so-called honor mission would bring honor to the sect. Not only did the sect care about it, but the cultivators also cared about it. When martial artists cultivated, sometimes what they fought for was face. Chin Nan? Did Chin Nan take part in it? Sigh, that little brother just now won't have a chance now. The guardian who was chatting with Chin Nan earlier sighed. In his opinion, this new disciple of the sacred Lord Blue Dragon was not inferior to Chin Nan at all. Unfortunately, he was one step too late. At Duanmu Mountain, at the dojo. On the dojo, an old blue-haired man floated in midair while his body emitted a terrifying martial dominator realm suppression. Below him were 5 disciples, some of whom were meditating with their legs crossed, while others were immersed in their thoughts. What? The old blue-haired man was shocked all of a sudden, before he blurted out in joy, Chin Nan is participating in the Martial Ancestor Secret Territory. Once these words were spoken, the expressions of the 5 disciples all changed. Then, their eyes began to flicker as they began to form all sorts of complicated thoughts. Senior, I'm Chin Nan. At that instant, Chin Nan arrived at the dojo and brought his fists together toward the old blue-haired man. The gazes of the 5 disciples landed on Qin Nan's figure with complicated looks. The old blue-haired man wore a joyful expression as he said, "What a surprise to see you here. You better do your best this time, and teach those from the Feiyang sacred area a lesson." All right, these 5 are the disciples heading to the martial ancestors' secret territory. They are all ranked in the top 10 of the Qinglong disciples' ranking. Don't underestimate them. "I've heard a lot about you. I'm Zhang Fei." A bulky man was the first to speak with a grin. "I'm Lin Xiaoyu." Among the 5 people, a girl with a delicate expression and a hint of nervousness said in a low voice, "I'm Wang Yang. Nice to meet you, Brother Qin. You can just call me Xiao San." Humph. The 4 disciples at the front were quite friendly, but the last young man wearing a black shirt harumphed coldly with a disdainful look. The harumph was extremely loud, causing the crowd to be startled as they glanced toward the black-shirt young man. "Liang Kai, what's with your attitude?" The old blue-haired man's face darkened as he snapped, "Let me tell you, Junior Brother Qin Nan is the prospective saint of the Qinglong sacred area, and is also the strongest person in our group. You will have to rely on him for the honorable mission, so you better show some respect." Qin Nan's expression remained calm, without any change in his expression. He was quite familiar with the name Liang Kai, who was ranked second on the Qinglong disciples' ranking, second only to him. Qin Nan glanced at him too. He possessed a 6th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit, and his martial skill realm had reached the force-accumulating realm. He was definitely qualified to be called a peerless genius. Rely on him? Liang Kai let out a hollow laugh and said, "Custodian, I don't agree with that. Although Qin Nan is quite powerful, I'm afraid he won't be able to handle the martial ancestor's secret ground on his own, right? I have to say, I don't King agree." In the meantime, a ferocious aura was fired into the sky from his body. As a peerless genius, Liang Kai could have shocked the world with a single brilliant feat, but this Qin Nan had stolen his limelight all of a sudden, and even took away his first-ranked position on the Qinglong disciples' ranking. Besides that, he had initially planned to use the martial ancestor's secret ground to show off his strength, but he had not expected to stumble into Qin Nan. This caused him to feel extremely unpleasant. "I have no conflict with you. Why are you targeting me?" "You." The old blue-haired man was about to become enraged. "Custodian, wait a minute." Qin Nan let out a smile and said, "It's his business if he's not convinced. There's no need to waste our time, let's move out at once." "This." The old blue-haired man was slightly hesitant. He had purposely said those words to provoke Liang Kai's anger, so that Qin Nan would show his strength. However, the outcome was not what he had expected. Who was the one that said Qin Nan had a fiery temper? Why wasn't there any reaction from him now? "There's no need to waste our time?" Liang Kai became enraged after hearing this. "Qin Nan, I challenge you to a duel, eat this." Liang Kai's temper was indeed fiery. Without hesitation, his figure dashed forward like a cannonball and hurled a punch in Qin Nan's direction. His punch was no small matter. It was filled with the will of the force-gathering realm. Furthermore, he had used some sort of martial art. At the tip of his fist, the formless qi transformed into a vortex. It was as if it could shatter everything in its path, causing the expressions of the other 4 genius disciples to greatly change. Such a skillful execution of the force-accumulating realm, which they could not match. "Piss off!" Qin Nan's expression turned cold, as a boundless suppression was emitted from his left eye. Now that his cultivation had reached the peak of the martial emperor realm, the suppression of the divine god of battle was no longer ordinary. Bang! A loud explosion took place. The vortex at the tip of Liang Kai's fist was instantly shattered into pieces, causing Liang Kai's expression to change tremendously. He immediately tried to flee, but it was too late, as he was struck by the suppression of the divine god of battle. A cry of agony could be heard, as if an invisible mountain was crushing onto Liang Kai's body, causing his back to bend. If it weren't for Liang Kai holding on with all his might, he would have been crushed by the suppression. The four geniuses were stunned. Even the old blue-haired man was stunned. Was he still human? Chapter 356. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 358. The Maple Kingdom. As I said before, it's your business whether you're convinced or not, it has nothing to do with me. 79 XS. Qin Nan said with an expressionless face, we are all disciples of the Qinglong sacred area. It doesn't matter who's stronger, or who's leading the team. Most importantly, are you only aiming to acquire a spot in the trial to rank up to the martial ancestor realm and obtain the rewards? The four disciples were slightly startled. Even Liang Kai, who had just been suppressed, could not help but reveal a stunned expression. Wasn't the purpose of this trial to acquire a spot in the trial to rank up to the martial ancestor realm and become famous? This trial is known as the honorable trial. Not only are we competing for the rewards, we're also competing for the honor. Qin Nan said in a deep tone, we're all disciples of the same sect. It doesn't matter if you're stronger than us, I'll do my best to help you to come first in the trial of the martial ancestor mystical ground. First place. Even the old blue-haired man and the 5 disciples were astounded. Did that mean the trial was only for the benefits? No. For the honor. The honor that belonged to the Qinglong sacred area. Liang Kai tried to say something. There's nothing to say. Qin Nan let out a smile and withdrew his suppression. Let's just treat it as a friendly duel between us. Custodian, can we leave now? Ugh. Let's go. The old blue-haired man collected his thoughts and blurted out. His eyes were filled with a hint of relief. Love go little Saith Ku as expected of Qin Nan, apart from his outstanding talent, he also had a deep understanding of the situation. It was definitely worth it for the sacred leaders of the 2 sacred areas to be involved in the trial. Liang Kai wore a complicated expression on his face, while the gazes of the 4 disciples changed slightly too. It was undeniable that they were jealous of Qin Nan and displeased with Qin Nan. However, it was no longer them competing against each other, but them representing the Qinglong sacred area in the trial. No matter what, it was time to let go of their prejudices. They were bound together for good or ill. Under the guidance of the old blue-haired man, the 6 of them swiftly left the Qinglong sacred area. Before they left, Qin Nan contacted Princess Miao Miao through the sound-conducting badge, and was told that the Longhu ancestor beast had already acquired a fortunate encounter at the Qinglong sacred area, and 3 peak leaders were currently waiting for him. Quick update, the website is refreshing with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most. You must give me a good review. Sima Kong came and went without a trace. He had long disappeared. No one knew what he was doing. As for Princess Miao Miao, she was currently learning alchemy. Judging from her arrogant and disdainful tone, she seemed to be very powerful. The journey of life has only just begun. There's still plenty of excitement in the lower district. Qin Nan looked at the distant sky, his heart burning with passion. Feiyang's sacred ground. Halfway up a mountain stood a palace surrounded by forbidding auras and qi. Inside the palace stood a white-shirted woman, who was none other than Jiang Bailan. Saintess, Xiao Tianhe has invited you to a banquet. Do you think? A martial ancestor realm expert standing in front of Jiang Bailan asked. I'm not going. Jiang Bailan wore a cold expression and said, Is there any news about Qin Nan? Since the great defeat of the Qinglong sacred area, Jiang Bailan had been staying at the Feiyang sacred area all the time, as she would not be able to calm her mind as long as she was not able to eliminate Qin Nan. She would definitely return the humiliation she had suffered that day 100-fold. News about Qin Nan? The martial ancestor realm expert was startled. At that instant, the sound-conducting badge on his waist vibrated, causing him to immediately check it out. After reading the content of the message, his breathing intensified as he said, "There's news! Saintess, there's news! Qin Nan has taken part in the martial ancestor mystical ground, and he's currently on his way there." Martial ancestor mystical ground? Jiang Bailan's almond-shaped eyes lit up as a smile appeared on her face. "Love go little say, W Chuo Qin Nan, you're finally willing to come out from the Qinglong sacred area. It just so happens that I'm qualified to take part in the martial ancestor mystical ground." Jiang Bailan let out a blossoming smile and said, although he did shock the two sacred areas at the Qinglong sacred area in terms of strength, it's still hard to tell who will win. The expert nodded his head. How many geniuses in the entire lower district could match their saintess strength? "Tell Jiaoshi that I'm heading to the martial ancestor mystical ground," Jiang Bailan said after a slight hesitation, "and tell Xiao Tianhe about it too." "Saintess, are you planning to?" The expert's eyes flickered. Jiang Bailan calmly said, "You're right. As a safety precaution, I'll borrow a few sabers to stab at Qin Nan." Saintess is so wise. Among the layers of clouds, a huge boat was flying at a high speed. The old blue-haired man stood at the front of the boat, while Qin Nan, Liang Kai, and the others stood behind him. At that instant, the old blue-haired man pointed downward and said, "There are still 3 days left until the martial ancestor mystical ground is accessible. In these 3 days we'll be staying at the Maple Kingdom. The royal family of the Maple Kingdom has prepared a feast for us." "A feast? Hee, not bad." Zhang Fei let out a grin, which combined with his appearance gave him an honest look. "Brother Zhang, this Red Maple Empire is not simple at all. Their emperor is a martial dominator realm expert, and has 13 princes under his command. Many of the princes have outstanding talents," the skinny man said. "Humph, how could he be compared to senior brother Qin Nan? Hee, that's bullshit." After spending some time together, the relationship between Qin Nan and the 5 became closer, especially Liang Kai, whose temperament was much more restrained after the little duel. "We're here." The old blue-haired man uttered a yell, as he steered the giant boat into the sky and landed at the royal family of the Maple Kingdom. As soon as they landed, countless knights of the Maple Kingdom surrounded them and welcomed Qin Nan and his crew into the kingdom. Before the sky turned completely dark, the magnificent royal palace of the Maple Kingdom was already emitting countless brilliant lights, as mystical music filled the air, as the authorities of the Maple Kingdom arrived, resulting in a lively scene. "Come, let's go." The old blue-haired man led Qin Nan and his crew into the royal palace. The imperial palace occupied an area of more than 30 li. It was magnificent and majestic. A huge 5-clawed golden dragon was carved on the heavenly flower. It was vivid and lifelike, and it exuded an oppressive aura. Wine tables were set up in the main hall, and figures were moving about. "We've arrived at the Qinglong sacred area." A eunuch uttered a yell in a loud voice. The initially noisy palace immediately fell silent, as countless gazes were directed toward Qin Nan's group, with a hint of respect in their eyes. "Custodian, and all the geniuses, welcome to the Maple Kingdom." The Emperor of the Maple Kingdom rose from his seat while wearing a dragon robe. Despite his imperious appearance, the smile on his face gave off a kind feeling. "Hee, Maple Emperor, don't bother with that. It's been a while since we last had a good chat," the old blue-haired man said smilingly. "Haha, come, I'm sure there will be plenty of drinks today." The Maple Emperor burst out laughing. It appeared that this Maple Emperor and the blue-haired custodian had known each other for quite some time. As for Qin Nan and his crew, they were arranged to sit at the VIP seat. Normally, with Qin Nan's identity, he would not be ignored. However, the martial ancestor mystical ground this time was different from other mystical grounds, as the geniuses of the Maple Kingdom and rogue cultivators of the lower district would be participating. Therefore, the old blue-haired man and the Qinglong sacred area decided to conceal the fact that Qin Nan would be participating in the martial ancestor mystical ground for the time being. That being said, the reason why Jiang Bailan was aware of it was due to the extraordinary presence of the trading alliance. Their shadows were able to appear and disappear mysteriously, thus it was possible for them to acquire the information. Qin Nan was not too fond of such occasions, thus he immediately found a quiet corner. To his surprise, the gentle Lin Xiaoyu came to the same corner and stared at him with a timid look. "It's fine, you'll get used to it." Lin Xiaoyu did not expect Qin Nan to take the initiative to talk to her. She immediately nodded her head like a frightened rabbit as her face blushed. Qin Nan let out a smile toward her, before he sat down with his legs crossed and began to cultivate. However, after less than 10 breaths' time after Qin Nan began to cultivate, a furious roar could be heard all of a sudden. Chapter 357. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 359. Only hearing her voice calling him Brother Nan, the furious roar was extraordinarily loud in the palace, causing the crowd's attention to shift toward the direction of the roar. Access. The one uttering the roar turned out to be Lin Xiaoyu. At that instant, her face reddened due to her anger as her eyes glared at the young man before her. The young man was wearing a golden robe, giving him a noble appearance. However, his tiny eyes gave him a perverted look. Isn't that the 5th prince? What is he doing? Many among the crowd could not help but blurt out. The Red Maple Emperor and the old blue-haired man glanced in the direction of the voice without showing any change in their expressions, as they continued to enjoy the wine. "Yo, you little B***tch, you're pretty bold, asking me to piss off?" The 5th prince showed no sign of fear as he giggled. Nice temper, as expected of someone from the Qinglong sacred area. "You're the one I'm interested in today. What do you think? Let's go out and have some fun. I guarantee that you'll soar into the sky." Lin Xiaoyu's figure trembled due to her anger. She had never been treated like this since she joined the Qinglong sacred area. "What are you doing?" At that instant, Liang Kai and the others rose from their seats with furious expressions. How bold of this 5th prince! He dares to bully Lin Xiaoyu in such a blatant manner. "What now?" The 5th prince's face turned cold as he said, "Why don't you take a look at where you are? Do you think you're so great just because you're from the Qinglong sacred area? Let me tell you, my brother is the disciple of the Slaughter City Lord, and he is currently in the palace. If you dare to be so smug, just you wait." "What? The Crown Prince is back? Tisk tsk, the Crown Prince is back. This is going to be interesting." The eyes of the crowd in the palace flickered. They were wondering where the courage of this 5th prince came from, daring to challenge the disciple of the Qinglong sacred area. The disciple of the Slaughter City Lord? The expressions of Liang Kai, Zhang Fei, and the other two simultaneously changed. In the lower district there were a total of 3 ancient cities. One of them was the Jiangwang City, the other was the Gambling City, and the last one was the Slaughter City. These 3 ancient cities had been established in the lower district for a few hundred years, and were closely related to the 2 sacred areas. Ordinary cultivators would not dare to offend them. Most importantly, according to the rumors, the city lord of Slaughter City had ranked up to the martial highness realm a few days ago. What kind of concept was a revered martial artist? In the 2 great sacred lands, they were peak leaders, who could easily rule the lower district, or even the upper district. Haha, are you scared? What's so great about your Qinglong sacred area? When the 5th prince saw their expressions, his face was filled with disdain as he said, "If you know what's good for you, then scram to the side. Don't disturb this prince's business. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." At this point, his gaze fell on Lin Xiaoyu. He laughed strangely and said, "Let's go, little girl. Fly with me." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and directly grabbed. How bold! Liang Kai and the others were infuriated, as they unleashed their cultivations and arrived beside the fifth prince at lightning speed. They executed various killing moves, sealing off the fifth prince's movements, preventing him from moving. The fifth prince's face turned pale. After all, his cultivation was only at the 8th layer martial emperor realm. The difference between him and these geniuses was too great. Love go little say, Chu, I'm telling you, if you dare to attack, my brother will never forgive you. The fifth prince snapped, if you know what's good for you, let go of me at once. Liang Kai and his crew remained still. Although they were intimidated by the so-called brother of the fifth prince, they did not treat the fifth prince as a threat. The blue-haired elder sitting at the leading seat said with a calm expression, "Maple Emperor, what do you mean by this?" "Haha, it's nothing serious." The Maple Emperor was unaware of the drama taking place below him. This is only a duel between the juniors. As seniors, why should we care about the duel between the juniors? Come, let's drink. The blue-haired old man's eyes turned cold, but he continued to raise his cup. At that instant, a loud roar could be heard all of a sudden. "Stop it at once." Following the roar, a young man with a majestic aura approached the crowd, who turned out to be the Maple Prince of the Maple Empire. The eyes of the people around the palace lit up when they saw this. "Brother, save me, they are trying to kill me." The fifth prince instantly saw his savior, as he blurted out in joy, "Let go of him." The Maple Prince's eyes flickered slightly. "It seems like they are the ones." He then stared at Liang Kai and his crew with a cold expression. "Maple Prince, right?" Liang Kai was completely unafraid as he said indifferently, "Your younger brother molested our junior sister. He's audacious and shameless to the extreme. As his older brother, shouldn't you discipline him properly and instead ask us to let him go? He's only molesting a woman. Let go of him at once. Otherwise, don't blame me for showing no mercy." The Maple Prince's eyes turned cold. Just molesting a woman? Liang Kai and his crew became enraged. Not only was the younger brother shameless, even the older brother was shameless too. How bold! No one had expected the Maple Prince to launch such a powerful attack. Countless maple leaves floated out from his eyes, which resembled an ocean, encapsulating the figures of Liang Kai and his crew. Such a powerful eye technique! Liang Kai and his crew were slightly startled, but as they were all geniuses ranked in the top 10 of the Qinglong ranking, there was no reason for them to be intimidated. They immediately prepared their attacks for the battle. At that instant, a loud roar could be heard all of a sudden. "Stop it all at once!" The crowd of the palace was astounded. Who would step forward now? As they followed the direction of the voice, they could only see a young man sitting in a corner beside Lin Xiaoyu. However, the young man's back was facing them, thus they could not see his face clearly. Liang Kai and his crew harumphed and halted their attack. The Maple Prince realized that the young man in the corner was most likely the leader of the 5 geniuses, as he frowned and said, "May I know who you are?" Before he could finish, a calm voice could be heard once again. "Maple Prince, ask your brother to drop to his knees and give Lin Xiaoyu 100 kowtows." What? At that instant, the crowd in the palace was stunned. Even the Maple Emperor's face was filled with astonishment. Everyone knew that the Maple Prince's status was no longer the same as before, as he was the son of the Slaughter City Lord. In terms of status, ordinary disciples of the sacred area were no match against him. However, this mysterious young man dared to provoke the Maple Prince in front of everyone? The Maple Prince was infuriated, but before he could unleash his anger, his brother, the 5th Prince, was the first to do so. "Who the F***K do you think you are? You dare ask me to drop to my knees? Do you know who my brother is? I think you're tired of living today." The fifth prince was enraged as he scolded. With his brother here, so what if he was a disciple of the sacred area? Is that so? The young man in the corner let out a calm laugh and slowly walked out from the corner. When the Maple Prince saw the young man's face, his face was filled with astonishment. The fifth prince was unaware of his reaction as he continued to mock. What nonsense are you talking about? Do you know who the Slaughter City Lord is? Someone that even the peak leaders of the sacred areas are afraid of. He is my brother's master. Are you scared now? I'll let you drop to your knees and give me 10,000 kowtows at once, only then will I forgive you. Before the fifth prince could finish his rant, he heard a whooshing sound. A slap landed on the fifth prince's face, making a loud slap. Shut the F***K up, I think you're asking for death. The Maple Prince uttered a roar. At that instant, everyone in the palace was dumbfounded. Even the Maple Emperor was slightly stunned. As for the fifth prince, his face was filled with shock and disbelief. My brother just slapped me? My most beloved brother just slapped me. Chapter 358. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 360. Xiao Faping. At that instant, the Maple Prince was utterly stunned. Visit. He had purposely helped the fifth prince in an unreasonable manner, as he had been instructed to stir up trouble to suppress the disciples of the Qinglong sacred area. After leaving Jiangwang City, the Maple Prince had a fortunate encounter, which allowed his maple eye technique to become stronger. As a result, he was able to become the disciple of the city lord of Slaughter City despite having a mere second-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. That being said, although his disciple sounded impressive to the others, he was only an honorary disciple. There were at least 20 honorary disciples of the city lord of Slaughter City. If it weren't for the Mister's order, he would not have dared to provoke the disciples of the Qinglong sacred area. However, he did not expect to see Qin Nan among the disciples of the Qinglong sacred area. Although the Maple Prince still held a grudge against Qin Nan, the current Qin Nan had long surpassed his tolerance. Even the Mister who had ordered him to do so was nothing compared to Qin Nan. The crowd in the palace was left in awe. What was going on? Why did the Maple Prince call him Brother Nan? Even the Maple Emperor was aware of the reason behind the previous scene, which was why he was utterly confused. Who exactly was this young man before him, to cause the Maple Prince to be so terrified of him? As for Liang Kai and the others, they had already expected this reaction, as a cold grin appeared on their faces. Qin Nan glanced at the Maple Prince with an expressionless face and said, "What a surprise. You've become quite extraordinary since our last meeting, and obtained quite a few fortunate encounters. However, does that mean you can do whatever you want just because of a fortunate encounter?" The Maple Prince's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He was quite familiar with Qin Nan's temper. If he were to offend him, there would be no way he would let it go so easily. "Brother, why did you hit me? Am I still your brother? You dare to hit me because of him." At that instant, the fifth prince yelled furiously. Read the full article. He was not stupid, as he could easily guess that the person before him had a formidable background. However, despite that, how could he be compared to his brother, and the Mister behind his brother? Kneel. The Maple Crown Prince was infuriated. He slapped the fifth prince's face again. How could his younger brother be so stupid? Could it be that he couldn't see any clues? But another loud slap rang out. The fifth prince was completely dumbfounded. He finally realized that the Maple Prince's attitude indicated that this young man's background was beyond his imagination. Thump! In a moment of panic, the fifth prince lost his backbone and knelt down on the spot. He hurriedly cried, "This big brother, please spare me. And this young miss, it was all my fault just now. I am a beast, I deserve to die." Qin Nan's expression did not change. He looked at Lin Xiaoyu. Lin Xiaoyu had a look of disgust on his face, as he said weakly to Qin Nan, "Senior Marshal brother, why don't we just let this matter go, scram?" Qin Nan said indifferently without even looking at the fifth prince. I'll leave. The fifth prince immediately rose from the ground, as if he had just received a great pardon, and left the place at a rapid pace. The crowd of the palace exchanged glances with one another. They did not expect the farce to come to an end so easily. This caused them to focus their attention onto Qin Nan's figure. It seems like this inconspicuous young man has quite a formidable background. Old man, you're really good at hiding your identity. This young man looks extremely unfamiliar. I don't think I've seen him before? At that instant, the Maple Emperor spoke with a calm smile, as if he was not concerned about his son kneeling down. He's just a new disciple that our Qinglong sacred area has recruited. Come, let's drink. The old blue-haired man said in a calm tone. The Maple Emperor's eyes flickered. This old man is indeed not easy to deal with. He immediately sent a message to the Maple Prince. After receiving the Maple Prince's reply, the Maple Emperor's expression changed abruptly. This time, their Maple Empire was being used as a tool. The person that the young master was targeting was Qin Nan. Our Maple Empire will not be involved in this. The Maple Emperor immediately transmitted his voice to the Maple Prince, before he raised his cup and said to the old blue-haired man, "Haha, it's my fault for not teaching him well." Liang Kai and the others immediately glanced toward Qin Nan. They had already realized that something was amiss. No matter how shameless this fifth prince was, he was still a prince of a kingdom. It was impossible for him to be so clueless as to provoke a disciple of the Qinglong sacred area. Even though the Maple Prince was the disciple of the Slaughter City Lord, he was only on par with them. Qin Nan cast a glance toward them, before he glanced toward the Maple Prince and asked, "Who's the one behind this?" Well, the Maple Prince's face was filled with hesitation. At that instant, a burst of laughter could be heard. "A while ago, I received a message from my brother. I was wondering who it was, but it turned out to be you. I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time." The crowd immediately glanced toward the source of the voice. A young man wearing a luxurious robe could be seen walking toward them. Although his cultivation was only at the peak of the martial emperor realm, his aura was extraordinary, resulting in a great suppression. "Master! Mr. Xiao is reading." At that instant, the Maple Prince and the Maple Emperor spoke at the same time. "Mr. Xiao. The City Lord of Slaughter City?" At this moment, the faces of the people in the Imperial Palace suddenly changed, as if they had thought of something. Liang Kai and the others frowned their eyebrows, while Xiao San's expression changed tremendously as he immediately transmitted his voice to the crowd. "Senior brother Qin Nan, fellow senior brothers, his name is Xiao Feipeng. He is the youngest among the 3 sons of the City Lord of Slaughter City." The 3 sons of Slaughter City? Liang Kai and the others were startled. Among the geniuses of the lower district, the 3 sons of Slaughter City were extremely famous. Their eldest brother was the prospective saint of the Feiyang sacred area, who was ranked first among the prospective saints. Their second brother was the successor of the gambling city. Although their third brother, Xiao Feipeng, was not as outstanding as his 2 eldest brothers, he possessed a 6th-grade Xian-ranked martial spirit. Qin Nan frowned his eyebrows. He had no idea who the 3 sons of Slaughter City were, but he was confused. He had never met this Xiao Feipeng before, so why would Xiao Feipeng target him? "Everyone, please forgive me for what happened just then." Xiao Feipeng stopped in his tracks and brought his fists together toward Qin Nan, Liang Kai, and the others. However, it was as if his flesh began to vibrate, as each of his muscles began to gather. Although his figure did not grow larger, an imperious aura similar to that of a giant was emitted from his body as he dashed toward the crowd. The expressions of Liang Kai and the others stiffened. Although their talents were extraordinary, There was still a huge gap between their identities and Xiao Feiping's. Lin Xiaoyu's face turned slightly pale. She now knew that this Xiao Feiping was not someone she could afford to offend. "Forgive me? Mr. Xiao, I don't think there's any conflict between us," Qin Nan said calmly with a calm expression. The crowd in the palace was astounded. This young man was indeed extraordinary, challenging Mr. Xiao in public, while the Maple Emperor and the Maple Prince ignored it. "I'm quite impressed by you. Why would there be any conflict between us?" Xiao Feiping squinted his eyes and said, "I was the one who asked the fifth prince to invite Miss Lin here. Since Miss Lin has rejected it, I have no choice but to come in person and invite Miss Lin to my room for a nice chat." Xiao Feiping's voice was calm at the beginning, but toward the end, it felt like an explosion. Whoosh! To everyone's surprise, Xiao Feiping attacked all of a sudden. His figure was like a giant ping, which expanded all of a sudden, resulting in a ferocious gust of wind that filled the entire palace, causing the crowd to be unable to open their eyes. At the center of the gust of wind, a giant hand grabbed in Lin Xiaoyu's direction. Despite Liang Kai and the others' outstanding talents, their expressions changed tremendously at that instant, as they could not react in time. Chapter 359. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 361. The Gathering of the Heroes of the Past. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow, as a boundless suppression was emitted from it. Access to the full article. The ferocious wind inside the palace instantly froze, as Xiao Feiping's hand froze in midair, as if there was an invisible barrier in front of him, preventing him from moving any further. Demonic Rock Left Hand. Xiao Feiping uttered a roar as his left hand was engulfed in a black smoke, as if it had transformed into a demon, which shattered the suppression and grabbed at Qin Nan once again. This was no longer a simple competition. If the grab were to land, Lin Xiaoyu would surely suffer a serious injury. "Piss off!" Qin Nan's figure was engulfed in flames as he lashed out a punch. Bang! Xiao Feiping's figure was sent flying on the spot. His figure was continuously knocked backward in midair, leaving behind a series of ripples in the air, resulting in a series of explosions. The crowd in the palace was astounded. It was as if they had just witnessed a ferocious beast roaring at the speed of lightning. Who exactly was this young man in front of them, to possess such a terrifying aura? Ha ha! Xiao Feiping withdrew his aura and burst out laughing, as expected of Qin Nan, to be able to force two sacred leaders to fight for him. Extraordinary indeed. The words served as a shocking explosion. Qin Nan? This young man was the famous Qin Nan? Senior brother Qin Nan. Lin Xiaoyu felt like crying. She did not expect her existence to bring so much trouble to Qin Nan. "Don't worry, he's only using you as an excuse to target me." Qin Nan shook his head at her, before he glanced at Liang Kai and the others, before he glanced at Xiao Feiping, and said in a cold tone, "I have no conflict with you. Why would you do such a shameless thing with your identity?" "Shameless?" Xiao Feiping let out a hollow laugh and said, "Qin Nan, although you are a peerless genius, you have offended someone you shouldn't have. I won't waste my time with you. Today is not the day for us to battle. Once the martial ancestor mystical ground is opened, I will use my full strength to kill you." After saying that, Xiao Feiping tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and disappeared with the speed of lightning. "Please go here to read a book." The crowd exchanged glances with one another. They did not expect one of the three sons of Slaughter City, Xiao Feiping, to be here just to test Qin Nan's strength, and specifically issued a challenge to him. This also made them excited. If the legendary exceptional genius Qin Nan were to face off against Xiao Feiping, who would win? Senior brother. Liang Kai and the others gathered around. "I'm fine." Qin Nan waved his hand and his face darkened slightly. Who was the one behind all of this? Who sent Xiao Feiping to snipe him? Although Qin Nan was not afraid of battles, he did not like the feeling of being watched in the dark. "Let's go." The old blue-haired man approached Qin Nan. As the custodian of the place, he knew that it was impossible to hide the fact that Qin Nan was going to participate in the martial ancestor mystical ground contest. It was highly possible that some unknown changes would take place in the martial ancestor mystical ground contest. The Maple Emperor and the Maple Prince could not stop them, thus they chose to ignore it. Under the guidance of the old blue-haired man, Qin Nan's group of 6 left the palace of the Maple Kingdom and arrived at a small city known as Seaside City. As the name suggested, Seaside City was located close to the ocean. Besides that, the martial ancestor mystical ground was an island located deep within the ocean. Every 18th of August, the island would float toward the entrance of the mystical ground and activate its forbidding aura. Love Go Xiao Se originally, Seaside City was not well developed. It was precisely because of the martial ancestor's secret dimension that it began to rise in fame. Every year, when it was nearing the 18th of the 8th month, Seaside City would be overcrowded with countless cultivators from the lower province. Qin Nan and his crew landed in an inn without making any noise, thus they did not alert anyone. 3 days left until the mystical ground contest. The old blue-haired man said in a dull tone, "Now that the news has been leaked, what do you think we should do now? We'll deal with it as it comes." "That's right. I'm not afraid of them," Liang Kai and the others said. From the way Qin Nan had protected Lin Xiaoyu, they were aware that Qin Nan was a very protective person, and hated evil as if it were his enemy. Furthermore, the 5 of them were all geniuses of the Qinglong sacred area, thus they were extremely prideful. How could they be intimidated by a mere threat from Xiao Feipeng? "I can attract their attention." Qin Nan pondered for a moment before he smilingly said, "They are here for me, so I can attract their attention. Liang Kai and the rest of you can take advantage of the situation and make your move. We should work together when the time comes. What do you think?" "Senior brother, you," Liang Kai and the others panicked. Although it was a good idea, the danger that Qin Nan would face was even greater. Qin Nan waved his hand with a determined look. He was certain that Xiao Feipeng was not the main target. There was someone else behind him, whose background was stronger than Xiao Feipeng's. Before figuring out the situation, Qin Nan did not want to drag Liang Kai and the others into the mess. "That's it then." The old blue-haired man nodded his head, as if he had already expected this. "Rest well for the next few days. I'll inform you if there's any news." Liang Kai and the others nodded their heads and fell silent. Qin Nan did not say anything further. He sat down with his legs crossed and waited for the martial ancestor mystical ground to be activated. 3 days were gone in the blink of an eye. On this day, the entire Seaside City became extraordinarily lively. "Hey, have you guys heard? I heard that the 8-armed saber is participating in the martial ancestor mystical ground this time." "Hee, who does the 8-armed saber think he is? Did you know that Qin Nan is here?" "What? Qin Nan is here? Are you kidding me?" Gasp! This is the peerless genius that caused the 2 sacred leaders to compete for him. According to the rumors, even the imperial exterminator Tang Qingshan is no match against him. What do you know, apart from the 999 Dao-seeking fish that Qin Nan triggered, he also leveled up to the martial emperor realm. Do you know how many zhang of tribulation he triggered? Let me tell you, 9,999 zhang. It even covered the entire Qinglong sacred area. F***K. That's insane. In previous years, only a limited number of people were allowed to participate in the martial ancestor mystical ground. As for the other cultivators, they were only here to witness the brilliance of the geniuses. However, this year, the brilliance of the martial ancestor mystical ground was completely overshadowed, with only Qin Nan as the main character. Meanwhile, at the seaside square of Seaside City, The square was fully crowded with people, each of whom was a martial emperor realm cultivator. They were all waiting patiently for the opening of the martial ancestor mystical ground. Look! The Qinglong sacred area is here. That's Qin Nan. The crowd instantly turned lively, as countless gazes were directed toward the square. The old blue-haired man led the way, followed by Qin Nan, Liang Kai, and the others. Under the crowd's gaze, Qin Nan's expression remained the same, as if he was not affected at all. At that instant, a powerful aura sprang into the sky without hesitation, which turned out to be Xiao Feipeng. Xiao Feipeng is here too. According to the rumors, when he was at the Maple Kingdom, he challenged Qin Nan to a duel. The crowd was immersed in an uproar once again, as their faces were filled with great anticipation. However, to their disappointment, Xiao Feipeng and Qin Nan did not even glance at each other, thus no conflict took place between them. The Feiyang sacred area is here. A scream could be heard from the crowd all of a sudden. Normally, the arrival of the Feiyang sacred area would definitely attract the attention of the crowd, but today, everyone's attention was focused on Qin Nan. Only a few among the crowd glanced toward them, and following a glimpse, their expressions changed tremendously. What the F***k? Jiaoxi Jiaozhe. What, the two brothers of the Jiao clan are here too. Jiao Zhe and Jiao Shi were quite famous in the lower district. Although they were completely overshadowed by Qin Nan during the selection of the Qinglong sacred area, they were still considered top geniuses, thus attracting the attention of the crowd. For the opening of the martial ancestor mystical ground, these two geniuses were here at the same time. Behind Jiao Zhe and Jiao Shi stood three other disciples, and at the back was a carriage. The carriage was being carried by 8 martial ancestor realm experts, resulting in a magnificent sight as it moved forward. This immediately attracted the attention of the crowd. Who exactly is here to cause such a grand scene? As the carriage came to a stop, the door of the carriage was pushed open, and a white-shirted woman walked out from it. As soon as the crowd saw the woman, their eyes were filled with astonishment. The white-shirted woman's figure floated out from the carriage and approached Qin Nan. After arriving before him, she said with a charming smile, "Friend Qin Nan, it's been a while. I've missed you." Chapter 360. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 362. An old friend is here. Isn't that the Saintess of the Trading Alliance? Could it be that she likes Qin Nan? The crowd of cultivators at the square were filled with admiration and envy. Jiang Bailan was as beautiful as a flower, with a gentle temperament, and a peerless genius with a formidable background. It was highly possible that only Qin Nan was qualified to be with her. Read the full article. For more information, visit www. Qin Nan gave her a cold stare. He now understood that Xiao Feipeng's intention to harm him was most likely related to Jiang Bailan. This woman was really haunting him like a ghost. Friend Qin Nan, I don't want to waste my time talking nonsense with you. The trial of the martial ancestor mystical ground is no longer a competition of comprehension, but a competition of true strength. I'm looking forward to seeing your strength. Jiang Bailan was different from before, as she smilingly uttered the words and left the place. The crowd of cultivators was startled. It felt like the words were a declaration of war. Could it be that the Saintess and Qin Nan were enemies? As Qin Nan had predicted, as soon as Jiang Bailan arrived, Xiao Feipeng immediately approached her and started chatting with her, resulting in a harmonious atmosphere. The crowd of rogue cultivators came to a realization. It seemed like the Saintess was Qin Nan's enemy, and was currently teaming up with Xiao Feipeng. Under such circumstances, they did not dare to say anything. They could only look forward to the outcome. The peerless genius Qin Nan, the Saintess, Xiao Feipeng, and the others teaming up, who would be the stronger one? At that instant, a figure arrived all of a sudden, who turned out to be the city lord of Ocean City. Geniuses of the two sacred areas, and fellow cultivators, the martial ancestor mystical ground is about to open. The city lord of Seaside City said in a loud tone, "The martial ancestor mystical ground is actually an island that appeared 100 years ago. According to the records of Seaside City, there is an ancient seal on the island. Once it is opened, it will bring about a misfortune. I hope the cultivators who are heading to the martial ancestor mystical ground will not touch the seal. Other than that, I'll explain the rules. The two Holy Lands have a total of 12 people, so there are still 24 spots left. As for the 24 spots, it is up to the cultivators to compete for them. Whoever is able to enter the martial ancestor mystical ground first will be the official participant. There's one more important thing. Each of you will be given a 3-pronged badge after entering the martial ancestor mystical ground. Once the badge is taken away, you will be disqualified from the island. Similarly, as long as you possess 8 tokens, you will be able to head to the center of the martial ancestor secret ground island and activate the stone statue to obtain the opportunity to become a martial ancestor. The city lord of Seaside City explained. Qin Nan immediately came to a realization. The rules of the martial ancestor mystical ground were similar to the trial of versatility of the Xianling clan, which involved competing for tokens. However, in order to enter the martial ancestor mystical ground, one would have to compete for 8 tokens, and head to the center of the island to activate the stone statue. In other words, there was no hiding in the martial ancestor mystical ground, as there would be a battle at the end. These are the sound-conducting badges. You 6, remember not to lose contact with each other when you arrive at the island. The blue-haired elder took out 6 badges and said in a serious tone, "Besides that, Liang Kai and the rest of you, remember to listen to junior brother Qin Nan's instructions at all times and come first at all costs." Understood. Liang Kai and the others nodded their heads. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow as he scanned the crowd, trying to observe their cultivations. This woman, Jiang Bailan, was extremely cunning. She would surely stir a great chaos at the martial ancestor mystical ground this time. Before that, Qin Nan wanted to observe the strength of the crowd, so he could get a rough idea. All of a sudden, Jiang Bailan smilingly spoke with a pleasant voice. "The martial ancestor mystical ground is a gathering place for the experts. I believe everyone here is familiar with my name. Here, I'll be giving out my sound-conducting badge to everyone here. Once the martial ancestor mystical ground is activated, if you're able to enter the island, please contact me. I've got a great deal for you, with great rewards." In the midst of her speech, she flicked her finger, causing a few hundred sound-conducting badges to fall into everyone's hands like a fairy scattering flowers. The blue-haired old man, Liang Kai, and the others were startled. They already knew that there was some conflict between Jiang Bailan and Qin Nan. Now that Jiang Bailan was willing to use a few hundred sound-conducting badges, it was obvious that she was up to something. Qin Nan was startled. This method was similar to what Mo Li and Lin Zixiao had done at the trial of versatility, gathering the experts to deal with him. Furthermore, previously at the island of versatility, Lin Zixiao could only send messages through beasts. Now that Jiang Bailan had the sound-conducting badges, it was extremely easy for her to gather the people on the island. "Thank you, Saintess. Haha, not bad. I will definitely enter the martial ancestor mystical ground then." The crowd of rogue cultivators responded in unison. Although they had no idea what Jiang Bailan was planning, they did have a good impression of Jiang Bailan. Furthermore, with Jiang Bailan's identity, they would not mind if there was a great deal to be done. This Jiang Bailan is indeed extraordinary. Qin Nan's expression sank slightly. He was unable to stop Jiang Bailan now, thus he could only observe everyone's strength in advance. Qin Nan scanned the crowd with his gaze, and his expression changed tremendously when he saw someone. Currently, the square was bustling with noise and chatter. However, there was one person in the crowd who had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was extremely handsome. However, this person was staring at Jiang Bailan with murderous intent in his eyes. Bitch, aborigine, ant, son of a bitch, the man kept cursing out some unpleasant words. It appeared that this person was the first senior brother of the Duanmu mountain, Zhao Fang. After Zhao Fang was taught a lesson by Duan Qing, that little wild horse, in the city of Black Hands, he was extremely furious. Following that, he resorted to some tricks and obtained the first place in the King of Robbing competition. As he had wished, he had earned enough contribution points to purchase the forbidden medicine. However, to his surprise, Qin Nan had immediately come to participate in the martial ancestor mystical ground. Zhao Fang was dumbfounded, who clenched his teeth and made up his mind to disguise himself. He even used some kind of secret technique to suppress his cultivation to the peak martial emperor realm and came to Seaside City to participate in the martial ancestor mystical ground, so that he could find a chance to drug Qin Nan. However, Zhao Fang did not expect this bitch Jiang Bailan to be planning to harm his Qin Nan. What an asshole! Trying to harm Qin Nan with such an ugly appearance? K me. Qin Nan cursed for the first time, as his face turned purple. He was not afraid of Jiang Bailan, Xiao Feiping, and the others, but he did not expect this asshole Zhao Fang to follow him to the martial ancestor mystical ground. Liang Kai and the others were confused. What was wrong with senior brother Qin Nan? Qin Nan, this woman Jiang Bailan is not to be underestimated. She must have prepared something before coming here. I'll hide myself, and you'll coordinate with me from the inside. A familiar pleasant voice could be heard all of a sudden. Qin Nan was startled, who turned his head around and saw an inconspicuous young man among the crowd glancing at Jiang Bailan and the others with a cold gaze. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow, as he immediately discovered that the young man was none other than Princess Miao Miao. You? Why are you here? Qin Nan was startled. Wasn't Princess Miao Miao supposed to be refining pills? Why was she here? Could it be that she was worried about him? I heard from that old man Duanmu that Jiang Bailan is here to bully you. Princess Miao Miao seemed to be able to see through Qin Nan's thoughts as she waved her fist and threatened, "Don't you think too much? I'm not worried about you, as you're my servant. Apart from me, no one is allowed to bully you. I'm not worried about you, but I'm not fond of that woman." Chapter 361. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 363. The opening of the mystical ground. Qin Nan let out a smile with a blank expression on his face. Please go here to read this book. When he had first met Princess Miao Miao, he had the urge to kill her. However, as time went by, he realized that apart from the fact that she was fond of saving her face, pills, robbing, and being unreasonable, she was extremely protective of her own people, at least in front of him. Sure, let's team up against her and teach her a lesson. Qin Nan transmitted his voice to her. Princess Miao Miao let out a sigh of relief as she patted her chest and remained silent. Right at this moment, an earth-shattering sound suddenly rang out. The undulating surface of the sea suddenly surged upwards, and a huge island shrouded in a yellow screen of light slowly rose up. Countless waves and flowers were set off in all directions. It was an earth-shattering sight. The island covered an area of over 200 li, with towering ancient trees and surging spiritual qi, giving it a mysterious appearance. At the center of the island, there were 3 lofty stone statues that were faintly discernible. Let's go! The old blue-haired man and the envoy of the Feiyang sacred area yelled out. The 2 martial dominator realm cultivators immediately made their moves, grabbing their disciples and tossing them into the sky. Qin Nan kicked the air and entered the deep region of the island. After seeing the disciples of the 2 sacred areas entering the island, the city lord of Oceanside City yelled, All cultivators, remember, there are only 24 spots available. Those who do not have the 24 spots will be killed by the forbidding aura of the island if they try to force their way in. The entire square was immersed in an uproar, as over 100 martial Emperor realm cultivators executed powerful secret techniques to enter the island. To them, achieving the martial ancestor realm was a rare opportunity. Even with the help of the geniuses of the two sacred areas, they still had to give it their all. Xiao Feipeng led the way, followed by Zhao Feng and Princess Miao Miao as they entered the island. In the blink of an eye, the 24 people were full. Among them, an aged peak martial emperor cultivator tried to force his way in, but was instantly shattered into pieces by the forbidding aura of the island, causing the crowd to be utterly terrified. This time, our Feiyang sacred area will surely come first. The envoy of the Feiyang sacred area glimpsed at the blue-haired old man and spoke in a prideful tone. The blue-haired old man sneered but did not reply. A whoosh! Qin Nan's figure fell from the sky. As soon as he entered the island, an invisible force twisted space and time, causing him to be separated from Liang Kai and the others. Qin Nan touched his waist and found a three-pronged token. He didn't know where it came from, but he didn't study the token. He first released his divine sense and found that there was no one within a radius of 7 miles. He immediately calmed down. Liang Kai, have you guys encountered any enemies? Qin Nan quickly took out his voice transmission token. No! I am alone. Senior brother Qin Nan, where are you? The 5 immediately transmitted their voices to Qin Nan. Keep in touch. If anything happens, let me know immediately. Qin Nan did not answer their questions. He then contacted Princess Miao Miao through his voice transmission token. The distance between them was not too far away, thus Princess Miao Miao soon arrived. Phew, that was so suffocating. Princess Miao Miao let out a sigh of relief as her figure emitted a glow, returning her to her previous appearance with fair skin and attractive facial features. Princess, are you able to locate Jiang Bailan and the others? Qin Nan asked. Nope. Princess Miao Miao shook her head and said, I've suppressed my cultivation to the martial emperor realm with a secret technique. Therefore, I can't detect their presence on a large scale. That doesn't matter. Let's team up and hunt down Jiang Bailan. Qin Nan's eyes flickered coldly. The island only covered an area with a circumference of over 200 li. Since his divine sense was able to cover an area with a circumference of 7 li, it would not take long for him to locate Jiang Bailan's figure. Qin Nan would not show any mercy to Jiang Bailan under the circumstances. Wait! Princess Miao Miao was startled as she took out a voice transmission token and said, This is from Jiang Bailan. She just sent me a message. Qin Nan's eyes glistened. Princess Miao Miao waved her hand, causing Jiang Bailan's pleasant voice to be heard from the token. Fellow cultivators, as you all know, only 3 people are qualified to enter the martial ancestor mystical ground. With all due respect, the peerless genius of the 2 sacred areas, Qin Nan, myself, Xiao Feipeng, Jiao Shi, and Jiao Zhe are all here, together with the geniuses of the other sacred areas. I'm afraid it's quite difficult for you to acquire 3 slots. Don't be mad. I'm only saying this because I want to cooperate with you. How do you want to cooperate? To be honest, I have a conflict with the peerless genius Qin Nan. I need something from him. If you're willing to help me, I'll give each of you 3 emperor weapons as a reward. While helping me, if you're aware of any danger, feel free to leave, and you'll be rewarded too. As for my reputation, I believe the title of the Saintess of the Trading Alliance is more than enough. I hope everyone is willing to team up with me to defeat the peerless genius of the lower district and break the legend. My current location is at the center of the island, and I'll be waiting for you all. His words were generous and impassioned, and all sorts of benefits were tempting. Princess Miao Miao glanced sideways at Qin Nan and said in an indifferent tone, 3 emperor weapons for each of you, that's quite a generous offer. Nice one, Jiang Bailan, I knew it. Qin Nan took a deep breath and said, Come, let's head to the center of the island. The two's figures flew toward the center of the island without hesitation. In less than the period it took an incense to burn, the two arrived at their destination. The center of the island was different from the surroundings, as it was a dojo with a circumference of 2 li. The dojo was built with some kind of mystical jade, giving it an ancient appearance, as if it had existed for countless years. At the center of the dojo, 3 5-zhang tall statues stood tall. The 3 statues were of the same man, standing with his hands behind him, wearing a long robe and hair reaching his waist. The statues were facing the sky in 3 different directions. For some reason, although the statues were supposed to be dead, it felt like they were still alive. This, Qin Nan's figure shuddered violently. When he was inspecting the 3 statues with his left eye of the divine god of battle, he could faintly see 3 different forces floating deep inside the statues. Although their auras were weak, they were incredibly powerful, as if they were beating vigorously like a heart. Could it be that they're still alive? The thought popped up in Qin Nan's mind. At that instant, he suddenly recalled the words of the city lord of Oceanside City. This island had appeared 100 years ago, and a terrifying legend had been spreading among the people, saying that if the seal was broken, it would bring misfortune. Could it be that the 3 statues that could help one rank up to the martial ancestor realm were the misfortune that was being suppressed by this island? He's not dead, he's still alive? Qin Nan subconsciously glanced at the island. However, the secrets of the island far exceeded what he could comprehend. Screw it. Let's not worry about that for now, focus on dealing with Jiang Bailan. Qin Nan soon collected his thoughts, as he and Princess Miao Miao floated in midair with a flicker and glanced downward. At the center of the dojo stood Jiao Shi, Jiao Zhe, Xiao Feiping, and on the other side stood Jiang Bailan. Jiang Bailan stood elegantly and glanced at Qin Nan in midair, before saying with a smile, Friend Qin Nan, you're here. Chapter 362. Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 364. The Realm Within the Realm. Meanwhile, a few cultivators had arrived at the island after hearing the benefits offered by Jiang Bailan. They were stunned when they saw Qin Nan in midair. Almost all the books you want to read are here. It's more stable than the average website, and the updates are faster too. It's all text with no advertisement. 79XS-Fight. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow as his battle intent soared into the sky. Without hesitation, his figure sprang downward in Jiang Bailan's direction. Qin Nan. Jiao Shi uttered a roar as his figure transformed into a beam of sword glow and sprang toward Qin Nan. After leaving the Qinglong sacred area, he had experienced various battles at the Feiyang sacred area, allowing his cultivation to reach the peak of the martial emperor realm. Furthermore, his sword art had improved tremendously, allowing him to gather the force of his sword and thrust it forward. I'm your opponent. Xiao Feiping uttered a roar. His figure resembled an ancient Kuan Ping as a pair of invisible wings were summoned, which flapped fiercely, causing a ferocious gust to explode in midair. Die! Qin Nan glared at Qin Nan like an enraged King Kong. His hair instantly turned fiery red, which danced wildly despite the absence of wind, as a fiery armor was formed on his body. Behind him, a fiery cloak over 5 zhang long was summoned into the sky. Break! Qin Nan swung his arms like a drawn bow and lashed out a punch. Bang! Bang! A boundless force descended from the sky like a flood, shattering the sword intent and the ferocious gust into pieces. How is this possible? Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping were dumbfounded. Such a fleshly body was actually able to easily crush their killing moves? How strong exactly was Qin Nan's cultivation? In the nick of time, Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping did not care about anything else, as their figures turned into boundless lightning bolts and charged at Qin Nan from both sides, merging into one. Just the two of you are not my match. Qin Nan let out a long howl and threw out two more punches. Scram! The two punches were like two giant mountains crushing down onto Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng's figures, sending them flying on the spot. The rogue cultivators who had rushed over were all aghast. Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng, the two geniuses, couldn't even withstand a single blow from Qin Nan. My sword is coming. Qin Nan's left arm shuddered as the primordial saber of the seven great sins, supremacy, appeared in his hand. The tip of the saber shuddered as it locked onto Jiang Bailan's figure. The two of them had long been entangled in their grudges. Today they would sever all ties with a single slash. "Brother, save her!" Jiao Shi shouted. Jiao Zhe clasped his hands together and didn't move. This battle had nothing to do with him. Kill! Qin Nan lashed out with the saber in his hand, which emitted a boundless saber intent aiming at Jiang Bailan's head. "Friend Qin Nan, there's no need to be so ruthless." Jiang Bailan let out a soft laugh and waved her hand. A glow was emitted from the bottom of her feet, which encapsulated her figure, forming an absolute defense. Bang! The saber intent landed on her figure, resulting in a terrifying explosion. However, the glow on Jiang Bailan's figure only flickered slightly, showing no sign of shattering. The defense was utterly terrifying. Jiang Bailan wore a charming smile on her face. The attack was an atavistic attack, known as the Divine Protection Ray, which was purchased from a cultivator by the Trading Alliance. Once executed, it was impossible for anyone with the same cultivation to break through it. In other words, apart from martial ancestor realm experts, her divine protection ray was unbeatable. Qin Nan, watch out for this. Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng finally reacted. Just as they were about to attack again, they heard a whooshing sound. In front of the two of them, an adorable little girl appeared out of nowhere. Crackling sounds came from the little girl's body, as if an ancient dragon was waking up. She smiled and said, "My two little friends, today, this princess will teach you how to be a proper person." As soon as she finished speaking, the little girl took a step forward and arrived above Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng. Before the two of them could react, the little girl spread open her 5 fingers. Endless saber chi floated out from the gaps between her fingertips and instantly turned into a sea of sabers, enveloping the two of them. Jiao Shi's and Xiao Feipeng's expressions changed tremendously. Such a terrifying saber intent! Since when did such an expert appear beside Qin Nan? If I'm not mistaken, this is Princess Miao Miao, right? Friend Qin Nan, you are no ordinary person indeed. The princess is willing to suppress her cultivation just to accompany you in the trial of the martial ancestor mystical ground. Jiang Bailan spoke in a relaxed manner, as if she had no reaction to Princess Miao Miao's arrival. Cut the crap, trying to stop me with a mere ray of light. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow as it scanned the surroundings. In just half a breath's time, he was able to discover the flaw of the divine protection ray. It appeared that the divine protection ray was formed by the force of the heavens and earth. At the top of the ray, there was a point of intersection which was the weakest part of the ray. Break! Qin Nan lashed out with his saber, which landed on the top of the ray, shattering it instantly. Jiang Bailan's expression finally changed. She did not expect the defensive move that she was so proud of to be shattered so easily. In the midst of her astonishment, her figure did not hesitate as her figure transformed into a gust of wind with a kick, sweeping toward the surroundings. Qin Nan had already predicted this. He immediately observed the situation with his left eye of the divine god of battle. As soon as Jiang Bailan made her move, his face remained expressionless as he swung the saber in his hand downward with a powerful aura. "Brother, if you don't save her, I'll kill myself right in front of you." Jiao Shi's expression turned hideous as he uttered a furious roar. The long sword in his hand began to buzz, as if he had made up his mind to die. Sigh, Jiao Zhe let out a sigh after seeing the frenzied expression on his brother's face. He reached out his left hand and extended his fingers over 10 meters away, grabbing the saber intent with brute force. His fingers were engulfed in an ancient blue glow as he clenched his fist. The simple action resulted in a terrifying force, which shattered the saber intent with brute force. What a terrifying body! The same thought flashed across the minds of the crowd. Jiao Zhe. Qin Nan's eyes flickered with a ferocious look. Among the geniuses of the Feiyang sacred area, Jiao Shi was no match against him, and Xiao Feipeng could barely stand a chance against him. Only Jiang Bailan and Jiao Zhe were considered peerless geniuses with outstanding capabilities. Senior brother Jiao Zhe, thank you so much. Jiang Bailan's figure landed on the statue out of nowhere as she uttered a pleasant laugh. Friend Qin Nan, I didn't intend to take part in the battle, but being born in the mundane world, I'm unable to sever my ties with the mundane world. I hope friend Qin Nan can understand. Jiao Zhe wore a helpless expression. He had never thought of being Qin Nan's enemy. In fact, he was quite fond of Qin Nan, but his brother Jiao Shi had always been his weakness. Understand my ass! A loud roar could be heard all of a sudden. A handsome young man with a formidable force charged in Jiao Zhe's direction. The young man was none other than Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng had no idea that his disguise had been exposed, but he did not forget to smile at Qin Nan and say, Friend Qin Nan, this Jiang Bailan has always been an eyesore to me. I'll help you stop Jiao Zhe, so you can deal with Jiang Bailan. Qin Nan's figure shuddered violently, as he almost slashed at Zhao Feng with the saber in his hand. However, now was not the time to be fussy. Jiang Bailan. Qin Nan raised his head. His left eye emitted a boundless golden glow and the suppression of the divine god of battle. As expected of the saintess of the trading alliance, Jiang Bailan's figure remained perfectly unaffected apart from the slight shuddering of her shoulders. She giggled as Qin Nan unleashed his aura. Friend Qin Nan, I'm quite impressed. You're able to defeat all the geniuses on my side despite being alone. It seems like I've never underestimated you. If that's the case, I've prepared a great gift for you. I'll present it to you now. She reached out her hand and slapped at the heads of the statues. At that instant it was as if the 3 statues had been awakened, as a boundless crimson glow was emitted from their bodies and fired into the sky, causing the barrier encapsulating the island to be corroded by the crimson glow, causing it to be dyed red. The heavens and earth were dyed red. The entire place was dyed red. A tremendous change took place on the island, as faint roars could be heard coming from the sky, as if countless demons were hiding within the island, trying to penetrate one's soul, causing one to feel restless, as if the place had truly turned into a demonic realm. This is Chapter 363. A Genius Will Remember Love in 1 Second Divided by Small? SageNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 365. Demonic Chord Highness. With his left eye, Qin Nan immediately discovered that the 3 forces inside the statue had become restless. Above the restless forces, a barrier was formed, which turned out to be a seal. Love Go Small said W. Chu advertisement, access. However, the seal was extremely faint, as if it was going to shatter at any second. What's going on? F***K. Don't tell me the seal is broken? Crazy, this is crazy. All the rogue cultivators who had rushed over were in a state of confusion. Before entering the island, the city lord of Seaside City had already told them about the seal. Now that the entire place was covered in blood and filled with a demonic aura, they could not help but feel terrified. Fellow cultivators, there's no need to panic. Jiang Bailan let out a laugh and said, Let me explain first. A few hundred years ago, A presence called the demonic Court Highness was besieged by the two sacred areas due to his excessive killing intent, resulting in him being severely injured. In order to avoid being hunted by the two sacred areas, the demonic Court Highness sealed himself and fell into a deep sleep, which transformed into this island. The crowd was astounded after hearing the word. Who would have thought that this island was formed by a martial highness? Jiang Bailan continued, every year, the martial ancestor mystical ground only has 3 spots, and 3 people have a chance of leveling up to the martial ancestor realm. As a matter of fact, the so-called chance of leveling up to the martial ancestor realm is a pill left by the demonic Court Highness, known as the 3-lined ascension pill. Those who consume it will be able to level up to the martial ancestor realm. The reason why the demonic Court Highness did this was to attract the two sacred areas and the rogue cultivators to come to this island and kill one another. The martial Emperor realm cultivators who died would then be absorbed by the island, allowing the demonic Court Highness to reconstruct his flesh, which would allow him to see the light of day again. A love go small, said W. Chu. Gasp. The crowd could not help but inhale deeply. This demonic Court Highness was indeed impressive. Even the two sacred areas were not aware of his schemes. That being said, they did not doubt Jiang Bailan's words. Even Qin Nan did not doubt her words, as Jiang Bailan was from the Trading Alliance, thus she knew a lot of secrets. She even knew a thing or two about the secrets of the Martial Serendipity Pavilion. Please go here to read a book. Then why did you open the seal? Do you want to revive the demonic cord supremacy? A rogue cultivator asked sternly. The seal hasn't been completely opened. There's still a tiny bit left. At the very least, the seal won't be completely opened within this year. Jiang Bailan shook her head and said, the reason why I opened most of the seals is because I wanted to borrow the devil chi here. As she spoke, she flipped her hand and an ancient disc appeared on it. The disc was like a star, with all kinds of pitch-black patterns flowing and interweaving with each other, forming a mysterious existence. Qin Nan, run! Princess Miao Miao's expression changed after seeing the disc, as she uttered a roar. Get him! Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping were already aware of the plan, as their figures sprang forward. 5 mystical rays were emitted from Jiao Shi's back, as an ancient sword martial spirit was fired into the sky. A boundless sword intent was emitted from the sword, which transformed into a mountain of sword intent, crushing downward onto Princess Miao Miao's figure. Kuan Peng martial spirit. Xiao Feiping uttered a roar as 6 mystical rays were emitted from his back. An ancient mystical Kuan Peng sprang forward from his back and dove downward. Its pair of sharp claws emitted a mystical glow as it clawed at Qin Nan's shoulder. Bang! Even with Qin Nan's current flesh, he was knocked into the ground, unable to move. Shit, it's a trap. Qin Nan's expression changed slightly. He finally understood why Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi were so easy to deal with at the start, as they had purposely shown their weakness to weaken Qin Nan's attention. Now, they had suddenly attacked with their martial spirits to suppress Qin Nan for a short period of time. Be gone! Qin Nan uttered a raging roar as his flesh erupted like a volcano, but he still could not break free from the Kuan Peng martial spirit. Haha, Qin Nan, even if you're a peerless genius, you won't be able to break free from the suppression of my Kuan Peng martial spirit. Just wait for your death. A hideous grin appeared on Xiao Feiping's face. Demonic rune heavenly plate, absorb the demonic chi of the surroundings. Jiang Bailan's hand shuddered, causing the ancient demonic plate to emit a tremendous absorption force, which caused the demonic chi floating on the island to be absorbed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the blood-red island returned to normal, as all the demonic chi was absorbed. Bang! It was as if the ancient demonic plate had transformed into a peerless demon, emitting a brilliant glow that shook the heavens and earth. The crowd was astounded. The aura emitted from the demonic plate alone was enough to intimidate them. Piss off! Qin Nan's left eye emitted a golden glow, causing the flames emitting from his figure to become even more ferocious. The Kuan Ping martial spirit let out a ferocious cry as its figure shuddered violently, as if it was being burned by the flames, trying to escape. Xiao Feiping's expression changed greatly. Qin Nan's flesh was more terrifying than he had imagined. Fellow Taoists, please act quickly and suppress that little girl. The benefits that she promised before will not change. Jiang Bailan said quickly with a calm expression. The crowd was stunned, as they did not expect this to happen. They could not help but hesitate. After all, Qin Nan was a peerless genius. If they were to kill him, they would most likely suffer endless vengeance. Don't worry, I, Jiang Bailan, swear to the heavens that I'll protect you for eternity. Jiang Bailan said, as if she was aware of the crowd's reaction. Thank you, Saintess. The 19 rogue cultivators did not hesitate for too long, before they swiftly accepted the order. They immediately executed their movement techniques and executed their killing blows in Princess Miao Miao's direction. For them, the temptation of 3 emperor weapons was too great, and there was no way they could reject it. Withdraw. Suppress. The pressure on Jiao Shi was relieved, allowing him to free his hand and control the giant sword to descend from the sky onto Qin Nan's head. Bang! Qin Nan's flesh, which had just struggled to break free, was once again slammed into the ground, as if the fiery armor covering his body was on the verge of shattering. 9 heavens and 10 earths, the ancient demon, the heart-destroying formation, extremely mysterious. Jiang Bailan held the ancient demonic disc in her hand and began to chant. Following each chant, it felt like a demon was being awakened on the disc. Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi let out hollow laugh. With the two of them working together, no matter how powerful this Qin Nan was, there was no way he could escape from their suppression. Once Jiang Bailan activated the formation, no matter how talented Qin Nan was, he would surely die today. Sigh, Jiao Zhe could not help but let out a sigh after witnessing the battle taking place before him. This woman Jiang Bailan was indeed terrifying. She was able to predict the outcome of the battle perfectly, without any loopholes. She was able to predict the outcome of the battle. Even Qin Nan would not be able to escape from the calamity. Could it be that Qin Nan was destined to die this time? Such a pity, such a pity. Dragon-lined golden core, endless secrets. I shall reign supreme among all living beings. Qin Nan's fiery hair danced wildly as his figure, which was being suppressed, emitted a boundless force. Puff! Qin Nan spat out a dragon-lined golden core from his mouth. At that instant, the battle between the rogue cultivators, the martial spirits of the two geniuses, and the ancient demonic disc in Jiang Bailan's hand dimmed as soon as the golden core appeared, as if everything had turned into the glow of a firefly, while the golden core had turned into the brightest star between the heavens and earth. Shit! Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi were dumbfounded. At that instant, a few yells could be heard. Asshole, let go of senior brother Qin Nan. Chapter 364. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Xiao? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 366, 4 Demons Destructive Formation, 4 Symbols, 9 Heavens Kuanping. 8 Desolations, 10,000 Sword Dao. Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi immediately spat out their inner cores as they sensed a great danger. They executed the inner core technique and unleashed their martial spirits to suppress Qin Nan once again. That's fast. Piss off. Qin Nan remained calm as he uttered a thunderous roar while controlling the dragon-lined golden core to collide with the two cultivators. Bang! The two martial spirits and the 2 inner cores were knocked backward at that instant, as if they were not facing a golden core, but a real dragon. Puff! Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi were knocked backward and spat out mouthfuls of blood. The two geniuses were both injured by the attack. Such a golden core is indeed law-defying. Both Jiao Zhe and the cultivators were astounded. No wonder the sacred leaders of the two sacred areas were here. The power of the dragon-lined golden core alone was enough to defeat anyone with the same cultivation. It could even defeat a first-layer martial ancestor realm expert with ease. Princess, we're here to lend you a hand. When Liang Kai and the others saw over 10 rogue cultivators surrounding a little girl, they immediately guessed that the little girl was Princess Miao Miao, who had recently become famous due to her talent of pill alchemy. They immediately executed their attacks without hesitation. Don't worry about me, go save Qin Nan. This is a dirty trick. Jiang Bailan is trying to get his inner core. Princess Miao Miao snapped all of a sudden. Liang Kai and the others were startled, unable to react in time. Qin Nan, take this. Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi did not leave after being knocked backward. They immediately took out 2 artifacts and hurled them into the air, which emitted a blinding glow, resulting in a ferocious storm, resulting in an imperious aura. Little cotton, little candy. The 2 artifacts turned out to be Dominator weapons with the ability of suppressing one's opponent. He even took out an Emperor Dao weapon? Break for me. Qin Nan's will to fight surged like a raging sea, growing more and more ferocious. He immediately activated his dragon-marked golden core, locked onto the void, and unleashed a torrent of divine light. Boom! Even the 2 Dominator weapons were knocked backward by the impact of the dragon-lined golden core. That being said, it was also because Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi were unable to fully utilize the power of the Dominator weapons. Dragon's Roar. Qin Nan's left eye glowed with golden light. The coiled golden dragon on the golden core seemed to have awakened, as it stared coldly at the 2 Dominator weapons, before it uttered a terrifying roar with its bloody mouth. Roar! At that instant, the cultivators within 5 li felt their eardrums being pierced, causing them to feel a great pain. Not only were the 2 Dominator weapons struck by the roar, with the help of the left eye of the divine god of battle, the attacks landed on the weakest points of the formation, causing it to explode instantly, resulting in strong gusts of wind being emitted from the formation. The 2 Dominator weapons were completely destroyed. Die! Qin Nan did not stop there, as his figure sprang into the sky and lashed out a punch in Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi's direction. 2 cries of agony echoed in the sky, as the 2 figures were sent flying while spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Even with their full strength and the help of the 2 Dominator weapons, the 2 geniuses still failed to resist Qin Nan's ferocious attack. Jiang Bailan, you're done. Qin Nan immediately turned his head around and locked his murderous gaze onto Jiang Bailan's figure. However, before he could utter the word die, a smile appeared on Jiang Bailan's face. You did not let me down. Even with the capabilities of the 2 geniuses, they still failed to stop you. However, this is all within my expectations. Rotation of the heavens, 4 palaces and 4 demons, formed the formation. Her expression became stern all of a sudden as she tossed the disc in her hand into the air, causing it to float above Qin Nan's head. Break! Qin Nan immediately had an uneasy feeling in his heart, as he unleashed his dragon-lined golden core and fired a shocking blow at the disc. Roar! 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 Before the attack could land, for hoarse roars that seemed to come from ancient times could be heard. The demonic disc shone brightly, and countless pitch-black runes spread out, covering an area of 15 meters. The formation took shape, and 4 ancient, pitch-black figures suddenly rose up from the ground. Buzz! It was as if the entire space had fallen silent, as a sacred buzz could be heard. The shocking blow executed by Qin Nan's dragon-lined golden core was nullified by an invisible force. Save him! Princess Miao Miao uttered a roar. If it weren't for the fact that her figure was being sealed off by the rogue cultivators, she would have charged toward Qin Nan. Liang Kai and the others finally came to their senses. They let out a roar and executed their killing moves at the spreading formation. However, the formation did not budge at all. Instead, it rebounded with a terrifying force and sent the 5 of them flying. Who could possibly break the formation? Qin Nan, even if you have a law-defying golden core, you must destroy it today. Jiang Bailan's expression turned cold. After learning that Qin Nan had come to the martial ancestor mystical ground, she had immediately used her authority to retrieve countless manuals. After learning about the demonic cord highness, she immediately found the demonic disc before her. She had then teamed up with Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng to set up this shocking trap, just to eliminate Qin Nan's dragon-lined golden core. There were 3 types of cultivators in the world. The first type was the martial art style, where one's martial spirit was used as a supplement to cultivate martial arts, granting them unlimited strength. The second type was the martial spirit style, where one continuously excavated the strength of one's martial spirit and used martial arts as a supplement. The third type was the mystical weapon style, where one used their martial spirit and martial arts to eliminate their enemies with powerful artifacts. These 3 types were the path of martial artists for every cultivator. However, Qin Nan was the 4th type. A 9-lined golden core was equivalent to a martial emperor realm cultivator, but Qin Nan had formed a dragon-lined golden core, which was extremely law-defying. In front of the dragon-lined golden core, any mystical weapon, martial spirit, etc. would be completely crushed. As such, Jiang Bailan was willing to pay a huge price to set up this 4 demons destructive formation, and even prepared various methods just to eliminate Qin Nan's dragon-lined golden core. If they did not eliminate it now, no one would be able to stop Qin Nan's terrifying strength in the future. Suppress the golden core. Jiang Bailan let out a roar. The demonic formation in midair instantly emitted a boundless force, causing the 4 illusionary figures of the demon emperors to let out ferocious roars as they turned around and locked onto Qin Nan's figure. At the same time, a pitch-black atavistic chain was fired, which wrapped tightly around the dragon-lined golden core. As the chain was completely wrapped around, it turned into a black flame that burned fiercely. Gasp! Qin Nan took a deep breath. For some reason, the black flame was able to burn his dragon-lined golden core, which caused his flesh to suffer a great impact. Crap! Princess Miao Miao's face turned slightly pale. Although she was not familiar with formations, she did know that the 4 demons destructive formation was used to assassinate martial highnesses in the past. Although its power was not as strong as before, it was more than enough for Jiang Bailan to deal with the dragon-lined golden core. The extinguishing of the black flames was only the beginning. Ha ha ha, Qin Nan, that's what you get for being so smug and disrespecting Bailan. Look at you now, this is what you get. Chapter 365. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 367, The Mad Pill for a Lifetime. Jiao Shi was different from Xiao Feipeng. Xiao Feipeng only interfered because of his elder brother, and because he wanted to challenge Qin Nan. On the other hand, Jiao Shi was obsessed with Jiang Bailan, and had been challenged by Qin Nan many times at the Qinglong sacred area. Now that he saw Qin Nan being defeated, his expression changed. That was fast. Trying to hurt me with a mere flame. To everyone's surprise, Qin Nan burst out laughing all of a sudden, as his dragon-lined golden core was engulfed in flames, causing the surroundings to turn into a sea of flames. This was the will of the blazing sun golden armor body technique inside the dragon-lined golden core. The smile on Jiao Shi's face stiffened slightly. The 4 demons destructive formation is not that easy to deal with. Chant of the 10,000 demons. Jiang Bailan remained calm. She had already expected the dragon-lined golden core to be so powerful, thus she immediately activated the formation, causing the 4 illusionary figures of the demon emperors to move their lips slightly, uttering countless sounds. Although there were only 4 demon emperors, It felt like countless demons were standing in midair, uttering cries in Qin Nan's direction. Each of the cries was filled with a mysterious aura, which was unleashed at the same time, resulting in a powerful aura, as if it was trying to turn one into a demon. Even the surrounding cultivators who were not trapped by the formation felt their minds buzzing, causing their expressions to change slightly, as if their minds were about to be twisted. The power of the chant of the 10,000 demons was a clear indication of its power. "Chant of the 10,000 demons, my ass, piss off!" Qin Nan yelled sternly. The dragon-lined golden core began to vibrate vigorously. Apart from the scorching flames, a giant bell was summoned, which stood in mid-air and struck the bell, resulting in a deafening chime. The chanting of the 10,000 demons was instantly extinguished and ceased to exist. The main reason was that Qin Nan had practiced the demonic art of heart-calming, and together with the power of the dragon-lined golden core, he was not afraid of any demon. Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng's expressions changed slightly. The might of the dragon-patterned golden core had far exceeded their expectations. 4 demons shattering hand. With a solemn expression, Jiang Bailan activated the formation again. The auras of the 4 devil kings on top of the formation surged as they locked onto the dragon-marked golden core. Reaching out, they punched out toward it. This was the ultimate profundity of the 4 devils' devastation formation. Although it was not fully unleashed, the tips of the 4 devils' fists emanated a boundless will of destruction that enveloped the dragon-patterned golden core. Buzz, 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 buzz. Even though his dragon-patterned golden core was incomparably heaven-defying, it still trembled violently in the face of this destructive force. Qin Nan's body also emitted a series of explosions. His body had suffered a huge impact. In a short while, his aura dropped rapidly. His face was slightly pale, and a trace of blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Please go here to read a book, 4 Demons' Skin Exterminating Hand, right? You want to destroy my dragon-patterned golden core? I think you're dreaming." Not only was Qin Nan not pushed back after being severely injured, but his expression became even more frenzied as his battle intent surged. "Dragon-patterned golden core, primordial golden dragon, fight with me." As Qin Nan let out a long roar, the golden dragon coiled around his dragon-patterned golden core suddenly raised its head and extended its claws. With a monstrous aura, it lashed out at the 4 devils' devastation hand. This will belonged to Qin Nan. His will resonated with the golden core. Even the golden dragon would turn into a battle dragon. Boom, 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 boom. A series of explosions quickly spread out. The dragon-patterned golden core's might was unleashed. It was actually on par with the 4 devils' devastation hand. This, although Jiang Bailan was confident, she was still stunned by the scene before her. The 4 devils' devastation formation, an ancient ominous formation, was unable to suppress the dragon-patterned golden core? How terrifying was this dragon-patterned golden core? "Jiao Shi, Xiao Feipeng, I'll give you 2 a formation talisman. You 2 enter the formation and execute your killing moves to eliminate his golden core." Jiang Bailan shouted harshly. Apart from her calculations, she had already prepared a backup plan. "Got it." Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng nodded their heads. Jiang Bailan flicked her finger, causing 2 demonic glows to appear on their bodies. They immediately charged into the formation without hesitation. Inner core technique, martial spirit suppression. The 2 uttered a roar at the same time as their martial spirits and inner cores were summoned, which suppressed the dragon-patterned golden core. Bang, bang, bang. The dragon-patterned golden core was unable to maintain a stalemate and was continuously knocked back. Qin Nan's figure was also knocked back by a series of explosions. More blood was spat out from his mouth. "Qin Nan, use the badge." Princess Meow Meow snapped. The current situation had exceeded their expectations. If they did not use the badge, the consequences would be unimaginable. Jiang Bailan's expression changed. What badge? Could it be that Qin Nan still had a backup plan? You think you can force me to use the badge? Even if it's the three of you, or if all of you come at me at the same time, I'll surely defeat you all. Qin Nan uttered a roar. His body was engulfed in flames once again, causing the fiery cloak to rise into the sky, as his battle intent surged. The dragon-patterned golden core emitted a brilliant glow, as if the golden dragon was enraged, causing it to emit a powerful aura, which resisted the attacks of the two martial spirits, the two inner cores, and the power of the four demon hands of destruction. That's Jiang Bailan, Jiao Shi, and Xiao Feiping were dumbfounded. Let me ask all the heroes in the world, which martial emperor's inner core is so heaven-defying? It was the same for Jiaozhe, the rogue cultivators, and the others in all directions. Jiang Bailan soon collected her thoughts. The power of the dragon-patterned golden core had exceeded her expectations. Should she use her trump card now? Qin Nan, today is the day you die. Xiao Feiping uttered a roar all of a sudden. Since his eldest brother was fond of Jiang Bailan, as the third brother, he had received his eldest brother's order to compete with Qin Nan. However, the current situation had exceeded Xiao Feiping's expectations. If he were to let Qin Nan continue to grow, even his eldest brother would not stand a chance against Qin Nan. Therefore, even if he had to use his trump card, he had to kill Qin Nan. Natal Ancient Talisman. Xiao Feiping fired an ancient talisman, which was set on fire at a rapid pace. At that instant, a tremendous suppression was fired into the sky. How is this possible? The crowd was astounded. They could feel the suppression. It was not the suppression of a martial emperor, but the suppression of a martial highness. Bang! An illusionary figure could be seen rising from the ground and standing in midair, causing the area within 10 li to be immersed in darkness, leaving only the illusionary figure, as if it were the only existence in the heavens and earth. The city lord of Slaughter City. Jiang Bailan wore a joyful expression. When the surrounding people heard these words, their expressions were filled with shock. The city lord of Slaughter City? Was this the city lord who had recently ranked up to the martial highness realm? To be precise, it was not the actual city lord of Slaughter City, but a stream of his divine sense. As Xiao Feiping was the son of the city lord had used a stream of the force of the martial highness realm to craft a talisman for Xiao Feiping to carry around as his trump card. Bang! At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. The 3 stone statues suddenly emitted a mystical glow, penetrating the darkness and penetrating the divine sense of the city lord. Shit, I've triggered the forbidding aura of the demonic cord highness. Both Xiao Feiping and Jiang Bailan's expressions changed slightly. The aura of the bulky figure in midair rapidly dissipated after being struck by the attack, which was only 1/100th of its previous strength. The bulky figure uttered a cry of surprise after being struck by such a powerful attack, filled with curiosity. Die. The bulky figure swiftly observed the situation, and without hesitation, locked onto Qin Nan's figure as the second stone statue was fired at him, and flicked his finger. At that instant, the heavens and earth experienced a tremendous change, as a terrifying intent swept toward Qin Nan. Even though the figure was only 1/100th of its previous strength, it was still extremely terrifying. Even if a first-layer martial ancestor realm expert was here, he would be killed instantly by the will. The intent of a martial highness? However, trying to harm me with such a weak intent? You must be dreaming. Qin Nan showed no sign of being intimidated, as he stared at the figure from afar. Left eye of the divine god of battle, observe everything. Dragon-lined golden core, with its support, evolved the godly eye to eliminate everything. Qin Nan's left eye emitted a blinding golden glow. His entire dragon vein golden core erupted with unprecedented power. Golden light crazily gushed out, gradually forming the outline of a giant illusory golden eye in the void, which directly looked towards the void. Bang! The attack of the bulky figure was instantly shattered. The bulky figure was slightly startled as he glanced at Qin Nan, but before he could react, the forbidding aura of the 3 stone statues had already arrived, shattering his figure into pieces. Meanwhile, Jiang Bailan, Xiao Feiping, Jiao Shi, Jiao Zhe, and the rest of the geniuses were lost in their thoughts. The attack of the will of the Martial Highness realm was nullified? Although the will of the Martial Highness realm was only formed by a stream of the force of the Martial Highness realm, and only 1/100th of its strength was unleashed due to the forbidding aura, it was still the will of the Martial Highness realm. How laudifying was the dragon-lined golden core! Puff! At that instant, Qin Nan suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood into the air, causing his aura to weaken once again. The previous attack was the strongest killing blow of the dragon-lined golden core, which was executed by the left eye of the divine god of battle together with the will of the dragon-lined golden core. The force required to execute the attack was enormous, and in addition to the fact that Qin Nan was already severely injured, he was severely injured after executing the attack. "Quick, do it!" Jiang Bailan yelled. "Die!" Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping collected their thoughts and charged forward ferociously. Either way, they would not allow Qin Nan to leave this place alive. However, at that instant, among the crowd of cultivators, Zhao Feng's eyes flickered with excitement as he stood in front of Jiao Shi. So cool! So cool! As expected of the man he had chosen, a laudifying golden core that swept across the heavens and earth, undefeatable. "Qin Nan, I'm going to claim you as my steed. Right now, these shameless people are besieging you. Senior brother will rescue you later." Zhao Feng chuckled and said, "But before that, I'll let you consume a pill." As he spoke, a demonic pill appeared in his palm. It was the forbidden pill he had obtained, known as the pill of lifelong obsession. Once the pill was consumed, the person would completely lose themselves in it, with no hope of being saved. The person would fall in love with the owner of the pill for the rest of their life. Now that Zhao Feng had refined the pill, he could force Qin Nan to consume it while Qin Nan was still in a weakened state. That way, even if Qin Nan's dragon-lined golden core was outstanding, he would not be able to resist the effects of the forbidden pill. Qin Nan, hee. Chapter 366. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? Here's an interesting novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 368. Preparing a vicious killing move, demonic art of heart calming and sweeping. Qin Nan unleashed his dragon-lined golden core and summoned a giant bell, treating Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping as demons. He then struck the bell with all his might, resulting in a loud explosion in their minds. Love go little say, W. Chu advertisement. For more information, visit www. Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping's movements came to a halt, as their minds were filled with buzzing sounds. Qin Nan took advantage of their momentary lapse of concentration and sprang forward with a flicker, like a god of battle descending from the sky, throwing fiery punches at the two like a torrential rain. Bang! 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 A series of explosions took place, causing the crowd to inhale deeply. Wasn't Qin Nan injured? Is this really possible when he's injured? Just by thinking about it, if all these fists landed on their bodies, how miserable would the consequences be? Piss off! Qin Nan threw another 2 punches, causing Jiao Shi and Xiao Feiping to let out cries of agony and fall to the ground, losing all their strength to fight. At that instant, not only were their bodies in great pain and suffering from serious injuries, their eyes were filled with great astonishment. What kind of monster were they fighting against? Now's the time. Zhao Feng, who was standing outside the formation, wore an extremely excited expression, as he flicked the pill of lifetime obsession toward Qin Nan. Love go little say, Chu as the first senior brother of the Duanmu Mountain. He was able to tell that despite Qin Nan's outstanding strength, he was already at his limit, and was only relying on the dragon-lined golden core. Therefore, if he were to fire the pill into Qin Nan's body, he would not be able to resist it. Besides that, he also executed an ancient martial skill, known as the Void Flicking Finger. When this martial technique was used, it was silent. The finger force was in the air. Even if someone below the martial emperor realm had a powerful eye technique, it would be difficult for them to detect it. If he used this martial technique to flick the pill, Qin Nan would definitely not be able to detect it. Qin Nan, oh Qin Nan, follow your senior brother immediately and live a happy and blissful life. Zhao Feng could not help but imagine such a scene, causing him to swallow a mouthful of saliva. After eliminating Xiao Feiping and his companion in the formation, Qin Nan immediately raised his head. His left eye emitted a golden glow as it locked onto the four demons' destructive formation, trying to inspect every single flaw of the formation. However, at that instant, Qin Nan's left eye suddenly saw a ripple in the air, as a strange pill was flying toward his figure at a rapid pace. Qin Nan was startled, as he glanced at the crowd and immediately saw Zhao Feng's weird smile, which caused Qin Nan's hair to stand on end. This Zhao Feng must have used some kind of underhanded scheme. Qin Nan's eyes spat out flames of fury. Now that he was facing a formidable foe, this Zhao Feng dared to ambush him despite being the first senior brother of the Duanmu Mountain. How shameless! Since it's not a good pill, I'll give it to them. Qin Nan swiftly made up his mind. With a flick of his right hand, the flames engulfed the pill, while he slashed with the ancient saber in his left hand, splitting the pill in half and firing it at Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi. Love Go Xiao Sei could the scene took place too quickly, such that even Jiang Bailan did not expect it. No. The smile on Zhao Feng's face as he was imagining a perfect future instantly froze after seeing this, before he uttered a cry of agony. However, his voice was too slow. The pill that was split into two was indeed a forbidden medicine. When it hit the two of them, it completely fused into their bodies. There was no need for them to swallow it. Bang! Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi's bodies emitted a glow, which intertwined with each other in a mystical glow. The glow lasted for a period of 3 breaths' time, before it rapidly disappeared. It was as if the two who were on the verge of death were injected with life force once again, as their eyes sprang open while their auras rose rapidly. The crowd was astounded. What was going on? Did Qin Nan just save their lives? Husband, I miss you so much. I miss you so much. Husband, I love you so much. I love you so much. Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi rose from their seats and glanced at Zhao Feng at the same time. Their eyes were engulfed in flames of love as they subconsciously ran toward Zhao Feng. At that instant, everyone was dumbfounded. Even Jiang Bailan was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why were the two geniuses spouting nonsense all of a sudden? Who set up the formation, deactivate it at once. Who dares to stop me from meeting my husband? How bold! I'll kill anyone who dares to stop me from meeting my husband. Xiao Feiping and Jiao Shi became enraged as they unleashed their martial spirits and spat out their inner cores, which continuously attacked the four demons' destructive formation in a frenzied manner. The crowd was dumbfounded, especially Zhao Feng. The smile on his face disappeared, as he felt like he was on the verge of losing his mind. Why was this not what he had expected? How did Qin Nan discover his pill of lifetime obsession? Why did Qin Nan allow these two assholes to consume the pill? Upon seeing this, Qin Nan could not help but take a deep breath and shiver. Even when facing Jiang Bailan's schemes, he was never intimidated, but this time, he could feel a chill down his spine. If this medicinal pill were to be injected into his body, what would happen to him? Qin Nan, I don't know what kind of trick you've used, but I did not expect the four demons' destructive formation to fail to shatter your golden core. If that's the case, I shall have a fair battle with you." Jiang Bailan uttered a roar. Despite her pleasant voice, it was filled with a strong battle intent. She had made up her mind to use her final trump card. All along, she had assumed that Qin Nan was only a genius who had grown stronger with the help of the secrets of the martial serendipity pavilion. However, she was wrong. Qin Nan was much more terrifying than she had imagined. Despite all her schemes, she had failed to defeat Qin Nan. As the saintess of the trading alliance, it was her first time encountering such a situation. Therefore, she had to kill Qin Nan. After saying this, Jiang Bailan waved her hand, causing the four demons' destructive formation to dissipate. Qin Nan turned around and stared coldly at Jiang Bailan. The battle was about to take place. To everyone's surprise, Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng suddenly let out cries of surprise. "Husband! I've missed you so much! Husband! I love you so much!" Jiao Shi and Xiao Feipeng's figures sprang toward Zhao Feng at lightning speed and hugged him tightly from both sides. Their faces were flushed as they buried their heads in Zhao Feng's chest, while their faces were filled with embarrassment. Zhao Feng let out a cry of agony. Why was it these two assholes? Why wasn't it Qin Nan? Where was his Qin Nan? The crowd could not help but feel disgusted seeing this. Chapter 367. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 369. The heart-devouring martial spirit Jiao Shi. Don't even think about it. Jiao Zhe uttered a roar as his figure sprang into the air and reached out with his left hand. 79XS. Zhao Feng could no longer endure the shock, as his figure sprang forward and fled for his life. Although it was true that he was fond of men, he preferred men like Qin Nan, not these two. "Husband, don't run, husband, don't leave me behind." Xiao Feipeng and Jiao Shi were already immersed in the enchantment, who immediately chased after him. A chase between the four immediately took place. No one had expected that the originally murderous scene would become incomparably strange at this moment. It was as if an embarrassing aura was floating in the air. Heart-imprisoning hand. Jiang Bailan made her move all of a sudden. Her jade-like hand emitted a sacred glow, which penetrated the air and grabbed at Qin Nan's heart in a ruthless manner. "Jiang Bailan, let me see how strong you are." Qin Nan's eyes were engulfed in a ferocious battle intent. Without hesitation, he unleashed the power of his dragon-lined golden core, aiming to suppress Jiang Bailan's figure. This was because he had been tricked by this woman many times, causing him to suffer many losses. This time, he was determined to have a showdown with her in terms of martial skills. Bang! Jiang Bailan's heart-imprisoning hand was instantly shattered, as her figure trembled violently, as if it were on the verge of being crushed by the dragon-lined golden core. "Qin Nan, I might be intimidated if you were at your peak, but you're now a spent force. How could you stand a chance against me?" Jiang Bailan's expression remained unchanged as a protective glow was emitted from her body. Apart from that, 3 emperor weapons were activated, which formed an arcane tripartite mountain formation, which possessed a powerful defense, allowing it to resist the power of the dragon-lined golden core. As she had mentioned, the power of the dragon-lined golden core was no longer the same as before. Heart-imprisoning palm. She tried the same trick again. Once again, she tried to grab him, but Qin Nan punched her away. Just as he punched her, Jiang Bailan laughed coldly. Her red lips parted, revealing a silver needle in her mouth. She opened her mouth and spat it out. The silver needle shot out like a thunderbolt. Not good. Qin Nan's expression changed slightly as he unleashed his flames to resist the silver needle. To his surprise, the tip of the needle emitted a strange green glow, which extinguished the flames in a short period of time. This was not an ordinary silver needle, but an Emperor Dao hidden weapon. It contained a deadly poison that could even poison flames. Shameless Jiang Bailan, you actually want to launch a sneak attack. At this moment, Liang Kai and the other four roared and dashed out, sealing off the 5 directions and preparing to kill Jiang Bailan. After witnessing Qin Nan being severely injured, they had long wanted to lend him a hand, but they were unable to do so. Now that the opportunity had arrived, they would not bother to be fair with Jiang Bailan. They would rather join hands and kill her. Humph, do you really think you can harm me by joining hands? I'll show you my martial spirit today. Jiang Bailan did not show any sign of panic. Instead, she pursed her lips into a smile, as if everything was still within her control. As soon as she finished speaking, a loud explosion took place, as 8 green rays were emitted from her back. Within the 8 green rays, a strange beast with the shape of a tortoise and a sharp horn on its head could be seen, emitting a terrifying aura. At that instant, the faces of Liang Kai and his crew, and the crowd of rogue cultivators were filled with astonishment. 8th grade Xian ranked martial spirit. Jiang Bailan possessed an 8th grade Xian ranked martial spirit. What did this mean? Even in the entire lower district, there were only a handful of people with such a martial spirit. As everyone knew, the rank of a martial spirit was extremely important in the Kanglan continent. Although Qin Nan had broken Tang Qingshan's record in the selection of the Qinglong sacred area, it did not mean that the rank of his martial spirit was comparable to Jiang Bailan's. Liang Kai and the rest of you back off. I'll settle the conflict between Jiang Bailan and myself, Qin Nan said with a calm expression. 8th grade Xian ranked martial spirit? So what if it was? This, Liang Kai and his crew hesitated for a moment, but they could see Qin Nan's firm expression as he backed off in silence. The 5 of you are nothing in this battle. In a battle between Qin Nan and I, the 5 of you have no right to be a part of it. Jiang Bailan suddenly spoke with a charming smile, but her words caused the figures of Liang Kai and his crew to shudder. This was because Jiang Bailan's words had pierced their hearts. This is the moment. After seeing their reaction, Jiang Bailan immediately unleashed her martial spirit, causing her eyes to emit a mysterious glow. Following this, a series of invisible ripples appeared in mid-air and penetrated the hearts of the 5 cultivators. Her ability was different than Zhao Feng's void flick, as it was truly soundless. Even someone with an outstanding eye technique would not be able to detect it. Jiang Bailan, cut the bullshit. Qin Nan uttered a roar as his body was engulfed in flames as he charged toward Jiang Bailan. After unleashing her martial spirit, Jiang Bailan's strength remained the same, as if her martial spirit was merely a decoration. She continued to be knocked backward by Qin Nan's powerful flesh. Bang! 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 Following a series of explosions, Jiang Bailan's figure trembled violently as her face turned pale. In just a short period of time, Qin Nan's attacks were like a torrential downpour. If it weren't for her treasures, she would have been severely injured by now. The surrounding cultivators frowned their eyebrows. What was going on? Why was Jiang Bailan so weak after unleashing her 8th grade Xian ranked martial spirit? Normally, the strength of a martial spirit of this level would be extremely terrifying, which could not be measured with common sense. Qin Nan frowned his eyebrows too, as a strange feeling arose in his heart. Even though my dragon-lined golden core is law-defying, it won't be able to hold on any longer. I need to end the battle as soon as possible. Qin Nan's eyes glistened. Regardless of what this Jiang Bailan was planning, he had to prepare himself to deal a fatal blow to eliminate her. At that instant, Liang Kai and the others suddenly yelled. Senior brother Qin Nan, this demoness is planning something. The 5 of us are here to assist you and eliminate her. 5 auras burst out from Qin Nan's back at the same time. Qin Nan was slightly startled. Didn't they say not to interfere in the battle? Qin Nan, watch out. At that instant, Princess Miao Miao snapped as she discovered something. Qin Nan's expression changed tremendously as his left eye emitted a golden glow and glimpsed at Jiang Bailan's martial spirit. For some reason, he suddenly recalled the martial spirit of Bei Rou from the four great clans at the Longhu mountain range. The thought caused him to feel extremely alarmed. Puff, 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 puff. However, Qin Nan's reaction was too slow. Before he could react, 5 sharp swords emitted powerful auras and penetrated Qin Nan's body, penetrating his flesh. Qin Nan's expression stiffened as his face turned pale. His figure shuddered as blood flowed out from his mouth. He had just experienced a great battle, thus the strength of his dragon-lined golden core was nowhere enough. Now that he was ambushed by Liang Kai and the others, even he was severely injured. I bet you didn't expect your senior and junior brothers to betray you one day? Jiang Bailan let out an eerie grin as she yelled, "Slay him!" Puff. Chapter 368. Geniuses remember love in 1 second divided by little? We provide you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 370. Qin Nan's wrath. It turned out that when Jiang Bailan unleashed her martial spirit, she did not aim her martial spirit at Qin Nan, but at Liang Kai and the others. 79 XS. Jiang Bailan purposely said those sarcastic words to disturb the mental states of Liang Kai and the other 4. After that, she used her heart-devouring martial spirit's ability to take advantage of the situation. Aren't you 5 geniuses? What right does Qin Nan have to be above you all? You might not know this, but the reason why Qin Nan is so powerful is because he has acquired the secrets of the martial serendipity pavilion. If you were able to acquire the secrets, your achievements would surely be greater than his. Besides, Qin Nan's martial spirit is only 10th grade Huang ranked. A 10th grade Huang ranked martial spirit cultivator is your senior brother? Do you really think so? Do you think Qin Nan has any respect for you? Didn't you realize that Qin Nan has been neglecting you in every battle? A piece of trash like him dares to look down on you. Jiang Bailan's voice penetrated the void and entered the 5's minds, carrying a strong sense of confusion. Her martial spirit was known as the heart-devouring martial spirit, which was one of its abilities. It was able to see through a person's nature, and take advantage of the situation to magnify the evil thoughts in the person's heart. As expected, the expressions of Liang Kai and the other 4 all turned ferocious. That's right. Qin Nan only has a 10th grade Huang ranked martial spirit. Why is he superior to us? We are the geniuses. Qin Nan only has some fortunate encounter. We should be stronger than Qin Nan. Why is Qin Nan looking down on us? We must kill Qin Nan. As such, Liang Kai and the others were completely bewitched by Jiang Bailan and turned into her puppets, obeying Jiang Bailan's orders. Taking advantage of the situation where Qin Nan was not expecting it, they swung their swords at Qin Nan 5 times. However, as the 5 of them drew out their swords and slashed at Qin Nan's head, their hollow eyes regained some consciousness, with a hint of terror. What have we done? Why are we swinging our swords at our senior brother? How is this possible? We can't swing our swords at Qin Nan. However, they were even more horrified to find that their bodies were no longer under their control. Senior brother Qin Nan. The 5 of them began to struggle violently, roaring in their hearts. Love go little say, Chu, can't swing. Can't kill senior brother Qin Nan. In the blink of an eye, Qin Nan reached out his hand, which was engulfed in flames, and grabbed the 5 swords, resulting in a series of explosions. It's her martial spirit that has bewitched Liang Kai and the others. Qin Nan instantly came to a realization after seeing the terrified expressions on their faces. He then gathered all his strength and uttered a roar, the art of heart calming and demonic dispersing. Demonic Tao vanish. You 5 wake up at once. Before the battle, Qin Nan had already consumed a great amount of his energy. Now that he had been stabbed by the 5 swords, his body had almost reached its limit. Even the glow of the dragon-lined golden core dimmed rapidly as he tried to unleash his full strength. Love go little say. Chue giant bell was summoned and struck in the direction of Liang Kai and the others. Dang. It was as if the souls of Liang Kai and the others were about to be knocked out. The influence of the heart-devouring martial spirit instantly vanished. After a brief moment of blankness, they swiftly collected their thoughts. Senior brother Qin Nan, Liang Kai and the others wore bitter expressions on their faces. No, Qin Nan forced a smile. However, before he could finish his sentence, a tremendous force struck Qin Nan's figure without mercy, causing the 5 bloody holes on Qin Nan's body to explode. The holes expanded, causing blood to spurt out from them. Ha ha! Qin Nan, you're such a righteous man. You're so focused on saving your senior and junior brothers that you've completely forgotten about me. Jiang Bailan burst out laughing. Oh Qin Nan, oh Qin Nan! So what if you have a dragon-lined golden core that defies the laws of nature? In the end, you're still stabbed by your senior and junior brothers, and even suffered such serious injuries because of your senior and junior brothers. She, Jiang Bailan, had won the battle. Senior brother Qin Nan. The expressions of Liang Kai and the others changed tremendously. The sight before them made them feel like their hearts were being stabbed with a knife, causing them great pain. Qin Nan was looking down on them? Qin Nan was looking down on them? How could they be bewitched by such laughable words? Who in this world would be like Qin Nan, who did not complain after being stabbed 5 times, and even used his last bit of strength to awaken them? And now, because of them, Qin Nan's body was struck by lightning. Qin Nan! Among the crowd, Princess Miao Miao's eyes reddened after seeing this. This idiot! How could he be so stupid? Jiang Bailan, if you dare to harm even a single strand of Qin Nan's hair, I'll bury the entire trading alliance with him. At that instant, Princess Miao Miao wore an icy expression, as an ancient imperious aura was emitted from her body. The expressions of the dozen or so cultivators surrounding her changed. They could only feel endless fear spreading uncontrollably from their hearts. Is that so? Today I will kill him for you to see. For some reason, Jiang Bailan became even more furious, as her eyes turned cold. She immediately prepared her strongest attack to eliminate Qin Nan. All of a sudden, the wind fell silent. The crowd fell silent. All of the moves were completely silent. It was as if the breathing, heartbeat, and blood of the crowd had stopped. In the air, an invisible suppression began to spread, causing them to feel anxious and uneasy. This, Jiang Bailan's expression stiffened slightly, as the heart-devouring martial spirit behind her began to roar restlessly, as if it was filled with fear. What exactly was happening? Her gaze instinctively landed onto Qin Nan's figure. Bang! A shocking explosion took place on the island. A total of 10 blue rays of light were emitted, each resembling a star. Following this, a giant figure emerged from the ground and stood in mid-air. The figure was over 10 zhang tall, and as soon as it appeared, it was as if the entire sky was covered in darkness. This is, Jiang Bailan was left in a daze. Everyone in the audience was completely stunned. Was this a martial spirit? These 10 mystic rays, a 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit? How was this possible? That was a 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit. Jiang Bailan. A shocking intent burst out from Qin Nan's body, which was covered in bloody holes and on the verge of death. It was a boundless fury. Die! Chapter 369. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second Divided by Little? Shua.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 371. Extremely daring. The divine battle spirit was different from other martial spirits, as each martial spirit had its own unique abilities. For example, Jiang Bailan's heart-devouring martial spirit was able to devour one's thoughts, magnify one's evil thoughts, and control others. Access. Apart from being able to level up, the divine battle spirit had never displayed any other abilities. As such, Qin Nan had always relied on his dragon-lined golden core in battles, and had never planned to rely on his martial spirit. However, at that instant, following the eruption of Qin Nan's fury, the divine battle spirit was unleashed on its own. Bang! A terrifying aura was emitted from the divine battle spirit, which felt like an ancient mountain crushing down onto the heart-devouring martial spirit from afar. The tortoise-like heart-devouring martial spirit let out a cry of agony, as if it had encountered a terrifying presence, causing its aura to drop rapidly, causing it to tremble in fear, completely losing its previous imperious appearance. Jiang Bailan's face turned pale white, as not only her martial spirit was affected, her actual body was also impacted. Most importantly, she did not even sense the force unleashed by her opponent's martial spirit. It was as if the martial spirit had risen into the air and stood there motionlessly, causing her martial spirit to be suppressed by a terrifying force. "I'll let you set me up." Qin Nan's body was covered in blood, but his body was engulfed in flames, as he leaped forward and threw a punch at Jiang Bailan's face. "Shit!" Jiang Bailan's expression changed, as she activated the protective light, but the power of the protective light was less than 1/10 of its usual strength, and was shattered by the punch. Advertisement. Her pupils contracted, as the fist engulfed in flames rapidly enlarged in her eyes, until a loud bang was heard. She could only feel her eyes, nose, mouth, and cheeks being hit by an ancient beast, causing her mind to go blank. The intense pain caused her to instinctively let out a cry of agony. "Who asked you to King scheme against me?" Qin Nan roared. In the instant that Jiang Bailan's body was sent flying, he suddenly reached out and grabbed her, pulling her back. Then, he once again smashed his flaming fist into her face. "Love go little say, neta chu bang." Immediately after, there was another shrill scream. After these two punches, Jiang Bailan's delicate and fair facial features were already badly mangled. When Qin Nan saw her in this state, he did not have the slightest bit of pity for her. Instead, the anger in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Since the battle at the Martial Serendipity Pavilion, this guy had given him 3 black lines. She had also set him up at Jiangwang City and the Qinglong Sacred Area. However, in the martial ancestor mystical ground this time, she had even prepared a shocking plan for it. Qin Nan had initially planned to defeat her in a fair battle. However, to his surprise, Jiang Bailan was extremely vicious, as she had even tricked his senior and junior brothers into attacking him. Even if he were to be defeated, Qin Nan would not complain at all. However, this woman had always been against him, and had even resorted to such an evil trick. "You like to set me up, huh? I'll beat you to death today." Bang, 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 bang. Qin Nan's figure moved at an extremely fast speed. His fists continuously landed onto Jiang Bailan's face like a raging storm. It felt like Jiang Bailan's head was about to explode. The crowd of rogue cultivators was stunned on the spot as if they were struck by lightning. They were completely stunned by the violent scene. "This punch, it's for me." Bang. "This punch, it's for everyone here." Bang. "This punch, it's for my junior brothers." Bang. Qin Nan continued to throw punches onto Jiang Bailan, causing blood to splatter everywhere. At that instant, Jiang Bailan's face could no longer be described as miserable, as if she had just been trampled by a pack of ancient beasts. "You are such a vicious person. I'll send you to your death now." Qin Nan was able to vent the anger in his heart by unleashing a series of punches. Without hesitation, he drew out the ancient saber Ira with his left hand and slashed at Jiang Bailan's head. A rare occurrence took place all of a sudden. A terrifying force burst out from Jiang Bailan's body, knocking Qin Nan's figure backward. Qin Nan's eyes glistened. Through his left eye of the divine god of battle, he could see that some kind of force had been sealed inside Jiang Bailan's body, which was rapidly awakening. Qin Nan, you will die a horrible death. Jiang Bailan's eyes, which had been severely injured, seemed to have recovered significantly following the awakening of the force in her body, as her eyes were filled with a thick hatred. Hatred! She was the saintess with a noble status, but this ant-like Qin Nan dared to humiliate her like this. Explode! She took out an ancient talisman with her left hand. The talisman was similar to Xiao Feipeng's talisman, but the terrifying aura emitted from it completely surpassed Xiao Feipeng's talisman. As soon as the talisman was activated, an ancient absorption force was emitted. What's going on? F***K. A series of screams could be heard all of a sudden. It turned out that the rogue cultivators who were attacking Princess Meow Meow were wearing terrified expressions, as if their strength was being absorbed by something. In the midst of their fear, they also discovered that the thing that was absorbing their cultivation was the sound-conducting badge that Jiang Bailan had given them previously. Bang! The power absorbed by the voice transmission token was all poured into the talisman. The entire talisman immediately erupted with a monstrous aura. Countless runes spread out and interweaved, causing a crack to slowly tear open in the void, revealing the endless darkness within. Trying to summon an expert like Xiao Feipeng? Qin Nan let out a hollow laugh. Summoning an expert, huh? Do you really think Jiang Bailan is the only one who can summon an expert? Without hesitation, Qin Nan inserted his divine sense into the badge that Tang Qinshan had given him. If it were a fair battle, Qin Nan would not bother Tang Qinshan. However, since Jiang Bailan was asking for help, there was no reason for him to be merciful. He would summon the Imperial Exterminator and slaughter all the experts of the Trading Alliance. Master, save me! Jiang Bailan uttered a cry of agony. In an instant, the color of the entire island changed. A majestic figure stepped out from the sky and landed on the island. The figure was an old man with sword-like eyebrows and a hooked nose. The aura emitted from his body was different from the aura of the city lord of Slaughter City. It was imperious, as if the emperor of a kingdom had arrived. As soon as he arrived, everything became minuscule and was forced to submit to him. Bang! 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 The ground of the giant island began to explode, causing the entire place to be engulfed in flames. The rogue cultivators were startled. The overwhelming aura alone was enough to suppress them, making it difficult for them to breathe. Many of the cultivators were even forced to drop to their knees. Humph! The imperious old man arrived and glanced around. When he saw Jiang Bailan's miserable state, his tone was filled with dissatisfaction. However, he reached out his hand and grabbed at the air, intending to bring Jiang Bailan away. Master, kill him! He's a threat, we can't let him live! Jiang Bailan screamed. The imperious old man's gaze landed onto Qin Nan's figure. When he saw the divine battle spirit standing behind Qin Nan, his eyes flickered with astonishment. However, the astonishment only lasted for half a breath's time, before it was replaced by a boundless murderous intent. No wonder you're able to defeat my disciple. With a 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit, you will surely be a formidable foe in the future. There's no way I'll forgive you. The imperious old man emitted a tremendous murderous aura, causing the water around the island to be stirred up, resulting in a shocking explosion. It was as if his anger could spread across the heavens and earth. His anger represented the wrath of the heavens. The cultivators at the scene were astounded. The terrifying anger almost caused their minds to collapse. Trying to kill me with a mere stream of Martial Highness's divine sense? That's just wishful thinking. Jiang Bailan, die. To everyone's surprise, at that instant, Qin Nan's battle intent grew even stronger. Without showing any mercy, he locked his gaze onto the space before him. A terrifying absorption force was emitted from the tip of his finger, which gathered the flames, the dragon-lined golden core, and his will. His strongest killing blow, the heavenly accumulating strike. Bang! Chapter 370. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 372. The evil intentions of the demonic court highness. The crowd of rogue cultivators almost lost their minds due to the suppression from the imperious old man. However, they had not expected a man to rise from his seat and launch a ferocious attack. How courageous was that? How crazy was that? How bold! The imperious old man became enraged. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please give it a good review. A mere ant dares to offend me, how lawless! He instantly made his move, summoning a giant hand that covered the sky and slapped downward. Even though the heavenly accumulating strike was powerful, it was like the glow of a firefly in front of the divine sense of the martial highness realm. The difference between the two was immeasurable. How bold you dare to harm the person I've set my eyes on! A raging roar could be heard all of a sudden, as the aura of the martial highness realm was fired into the sky. At that instant the imperious old man was stunned. Qin Nan was stunned too. The imperious old man did not expect a martial highness to arrive at this moment, while Qin Nan wore a confused expression. The voice did not belong to the imperial exterminator, Tang Qingshan. If it was not the imperial exterminator, which martial highness was it? The entire island began to tremble violently as countless blood-colored runes spread out from the ground and entered the 3 stone statues. The 3 stone statues emitted a brilliant glow and merged into one, forming a giant stone statue. This stone statue was 9 zhang tall. Its eyes were bright and its life aura was constantly fluctuating. The stone statue raised its hand and punched out. The space around it was instantly destroyed and swallowed the domineering old man's palm into the void. Demonic Court Highness. The imperious old man was shocked. Please read this book. Qin Nan's heart shuddered violently too. No one had expected the demonic court highness, who had been trying to hide from the 2 sacred areas a few hundred years ago, to awaken at this moment. As such, Qin Nan's heavenly accumulating strike was fired in the direction of Jiang Bailan. Help! Jiang Bailan uttered a cry of agony. How could this be? Why would the demonic court highness appear all of a sudden? Why was she being attacked when her master was already here? Humph! Demonic court highness, you dare to act so scornfully when you have yet to fully recover. The domineering old man harumphed coldly as he reached out and grabbed the heavenly accumulating strike into his hand. Bang! The speck of light exploded and emitted a terrifying oppressive might. It actually caused the domineering old man's palm to tremble slightly. Although it was imperceptible, the imperious old martial highness, the martial highness realm, the martial highness, heavens. How could a mere peak martial king realm expert be able to produce such a powerful attack? He must not be allowed to live. Die! The imperious old man made up his mind at lightning speed as he uttered a roar, causing the space to explode. Countless fragments of the space were fired toward him, forming a black hole that crushed downward onto Qin Nan's figure. Love go little say, could this kid must not be allowed to live. So what if I've yet to recover? You dare to act recklessly here with your mere divine sense? In your dreams. The statue of the demonic court highness uttered a roar as a tremendous demonic glow was emitted from its throat, which instantly destroyed the black hole in the sky. The remaining force of the attack struck the imperious old man's figure without mercy. The imperious old man's figure shuddered violently as the glow emitted from his body dimmed significantly. Although Jiang Bailan, who he was grabbing, managed to resist half of the impact under his protection. The remaining force of the impact almost instantly shattered her bones, causing her to let out a cry of agony. Even though the imperious old man and the demonic court highness' strength were not even 1/100th of the strength of the martial highness, the various forces involved were extremely terrifying. This Jiang Bailan had almost become the cannon fodder in the battle between the martial highnesses. Useless piece of trash! The imperious old man could not help but burst out cursing. With this Jiang Bailan blocking his path, it was impossible for him to unleash his full potential. Demonic Court Highness, don't you dare be smug in front of me. It's only my divine sense that has arrived today. Now that my actual body is on its way here, I'll kill you no matter where you run to. The imperious old man uttered a roar as he tore open a rift in the sky and stepped into it, preparing to leave the place. Who the F***K do you think you are when my actual body was enjoying its glory in the lower district? Now that I've chased you away, you still dare to threaten me. You're courting death. The demonic court highness became enraged as he opened his mouth wide and fired a tremendous demonic glow into the rift. Bang! 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 Within a radius of 30 miles in the sky, a series of earth-shattering explosions rang out. The imperious old man was severely injured, as his figure was on the verge of collapsing. Although he was both anxious and furious, he did not dare to provoke the demonic court highness, and immediately left the place. Jiang Bailan. Qin Nan's eyes were spitting flames. She was lucky this time. If it weren't for the fact that Tang Qingshan had yet to arrive, there was no way he would let her escape. However, Qin Nan had already transmitted his voice. Even if Jiang Bailan were to escape now, once Tang Qingshan arrived, he could still attack the headquarters of the trading alliance. Either way, there was no way he would let Jiang Bailan go. Qin Nan took a deep breath and withheld his anger, before he raised his hand and said, "Thank you, Senior, for saving my life. It had been a close call. If it weren't for the demonic court highness, he would most likely be attacked by the imperious old man, resulting in his death." Meanwhile, the crowd of rogue cultivators gradually collected their thoughts from the epic battle between the two martial highnesses. They glanced at the terrifying statue before them with great fear. That was the demonic court highness. A few hundred years ago, the infamous presence who had survived despite being hunted down by the two sacred areas. "Thank me? Kid, since you want to thank me, then hand over your body to me." The demonic court highness let out a hollow laugh all of a sudden. Following this, a black mist was emitted from his body and spread into the surroundings, covering the entire island. At that instant, the entire place turned dark as a demonic aura filled the place, accompanied by the cries of countless demon emperors. Previously, when Jiang Bailan had triggered the seal, the demonic aura was completely different compared to the current demonic aura. Shit! Qin Nan's expression changed instantly. This time, the demonic court highness had yet to fully recover from his injuries, yet he had suddenly intervened to stop the imperious old man. It was obvious that he was here for Qin Nan's flesh. "Qin Nan, let's go!" Princess Miao Miao uttered a roar as her half-martial dominator realm cultivation was unleashed. She grabbed Qin Nan's shoulder and prepared to flee. Trying to escape? The grin on the demonic court highness' face grew thicker as he stomped his right foot on the ground, causing invisible ripples to appear and collide with Princess Miao Miao's figure. Bang! Princess Miao Miao's face turned pale white as her figure was sent flying, causing her aura to drop to the bottom. After all, her cultivation was only at the half-martial dominator realm. The difference between her and the demonic court highness was too great. Ha ha ha! The demonic court highness burst out laughing after seeing this. His eyes were filled with excitement. As I thought, the heavens were indeed kind to me. A 10th grade Xian ranked martial spirit, and a law-defying dragon-lined golden core. Chapter 371. A Genius Remembers Love in 1 Second/Small? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 373. Threatening the Venerable O'Neill. The rogue cultivators felt a chill run down their spines. Cotton, flower candy talk. -79. They did not expect the demonic Court Highness to appear just to devour Chin Nan. However, it did allow them to let out sighs of relief. If the demonic Court Highness were to devour Chin Nan, it would have nothing to do with them. Go! The rogue cultivators looked at each other and prepared to leave. You want to leave? To their surprise, the demonic Court Highness suddenly glanced at them with an icy gaze and said, "You bunch of ants, stand still and let me devour you. Otherwise, you will suffer a fate worse than death." The expressions of these rogue cultivators changed dramatically. The demonic Court Highness was planning to devour all of them? Senior brother Chin Nan, run! At that instant, Liang Kai and his crew uttered a roar and shielded Chin Nan's figure in front of them with firm expressions. They had stabbed Chin Nan and even dragged Chin Nan down, but Chin Nan did not blame them. Now, they were willing to sacrifice themselves in exchange for Chin Nan's chance of survival. Senior brother Chin Nan was a real genius. If he were to survive, he would surely shine brightly in the lower district. You bunch of ants! The demonic Court Supremacy was enraged. As a martial highness, who had lived in the lower district for countless years, since when did a bunch of mere peak martial emperor realm cultivators dare to disrespect him? Die! He immediately reached out his finger, preparing to kill them all. Stop! Chin Nan let out a loud shout. The demonic Court Supremacy's movements stiffened slightly as he looked at Chin Nan. Demonic Court Supremacy, the person you want to devour is me. It has nothing to do with them. Let them go. Chin Nan's expression was cold as he said, I know you want my body, so if you release it, then I'm sorry, I'll just self-destruct. As he spoke, Chin Nan's expression became ferocious, as if he had turned into a lunatic. Chin Nan! Senior brother Chin Nan! The expressions of Princess Miao Miao, Liang Kai, and the other four changed. The group of rogue cultivators looked delighted. This Chin Nan had a good character. He actually let them go. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and it updates faster. It's all text with no advertisements. Is that so? The demonic Court Supremacy smiled disdainfully. Self-detonation? To self-detonate, one would need a great deal of courage to do so. This was because every martial artist's cultivation was not easy to obtain and would not be easily destroyed, especially for a genius like Chin Nan. Without hesitation, a terrifying force burst out from his palm as he was about to slam it down. 1. Chin Nan's dragon-lined golden core began to vibrate vigorously as the aura inside it began to collapse rapidly. He was actually planning to self-detonate. You! The demonic Court Supremacy was startled as he immediately withdrew his hand and clenched his teeth. You're really something, leave at once. Princess Miao Miao, Liang Kai, and the others wore unpleasant looks. Asking them to leave? Asking Chin Nan to stay? How could they possibly do such a shameless and unjust thing? The rogue cultivators immediately left as if they had just received a great pardon, without even glancing at Chin Nan. Love go little Saith. Chin Nan glanced at Princess Miao Miao and the others, before his lips moved slightly as he transmitted his voice to Princess Miao Miao. Princess Miao Miao's eyes flickered as she spoke. Liang Kai and the rest of you, come with me. This demonic Court Supremacy alone would not be able to harm Chin Nan. Liang Kai and the others were startled. Not able to harm Chin Nan? Are you kidding me? This was the demonic Court Supremacy. Although he was not at his peak, even a peak martial dominator realm expert would not stand a chance against him. Princess Miao Miao had no intention to explain further. She reached out her hand and grabbed Liang Kai and the others, before dragging them away with brute force, without giving them any time to react. Before leaving, Princess Meow Meow glanced at the demonic cord supremacy with a pitiful look. This guy had sealed himself in order to escape from the pursuit of the two sacred areas, and transformed himself into the martial ancestor mystical ground after 100 years of preparation. Now that he was on the verge of recovering, he had stumbled into Qin Nan. What's that look? The demonic cord supremacy could feel his heart shuddering. This little girl dared to look at him with a pitiful look? Did she think that he would not be able to handle a mere peak martial emperor realm Qin Nan, who had no battle capabilities? What a joke. I remember that those people tried to harm you before. I believe you wouldn't mind if I killed them. The demonic cord supremacy felt unpleasant in his heart. Before Qin Nan could reply, he glanced at the fleeing rogue cultivators and reached out his hand, firing countless rays of light that penetrated the figures of the rogue cultivators. The joy on the faces of the rogue cultivators stiffened. Didn't he ask them to flee? However, before they could react, their figures exploded into a bloody mist, which was absorbed into the demonic cord supremacy's body. The demonic cord supremacy uttered a satisfied sound, as his eyes turned slightly red as he stared at Qin Nan, before he let out a grin. Haha, kid, you're lucky to be able to possess my flesh. Now I'll let you. Before he could finish, Qin Nan snapped in a cold tone. Demonic cord highness, since you've helped me just then, I'll give you a piece of advice. It's better if you don't have any thoughts toward my flesh. Otherwise, all the pain you've endured for the past 100 years will be destroyed in a single day. You better think about it carefully. The demonic cord supremacy was stunned in place. What was going on? Wasn't this guy supposed to be terrified and begging for his life? Why was this guy threatening him in such a righteous manner? Could it be the demonic cord supremacy thought of a possibility? A law-defying genius like Qin Nan would surely attract the attention of the two sacred areas, as countless experts were keeping an eye on Qin Nan's safety. It was most likely that Qin Nan had contacted the sacred areas with some trick. The demonic cord supremacy let out a disdainful laugh and said, "Do you really think I'm unaware of your little trick? The heavenly cycle of fortune, outer demon transformation, invisible and invisible, heavenly fortune of the four directions, conceal." With a flick of his finger, a magical glow was fired into the sky, encapsulating the entire island within it. From the outside, it was as if the entire island had disappeared into thin air, as if it had never existed before. Now, even the peak leaders of the two sacred areas would not be able to detect your presence. The demonic cord supremacy let out a mocking grin. Trying to ask the experts of the sacred areas to save you? That was simply wishful thinking. Demonic cord supremacy. Qin Nan let out a sigh. He was aware of the demonic cord supremacy's thoughts, but he had already sent a message to Tang Qingshan. Therefore, it would not take long for Tang Qingshan to arrive in person. Even if his presence was concealed, with Tang Qingshan's cultivation, it would not be a problem for him to discover this place. As such, Qin Nan had said those words to the demonic cord supremacy. Currently, Qin Nan's target was Jiang Bailan. There was no conflict between him and the demonic cord supremacy, and the demonic cord supremacy had even helped him. Therefore, he hoped that the demonic cord supremacy would not do anything stupid. I'll tell you one more time, you better not harm me, as the people who are coming are more terrifying than your imagination. You will not be able to handle them. Qin Nan took a deep breath and said to the demonic cord supremacy in a serious tone, "If you let me go now, I'll continue to hunt down the people of the Trading Alliance. I will not reveal anything about you to anyone." The demonic cord supremacy was dumbfounded after hearing the words. Had this kid taken the wrong medicine? Was he still threatening me and asking me to let him go? Where did this mere martial emperor realm cultivator get such great confidence from? It was as if an ant had its hands on its hips and was telling a giant to be careful because it was not easy to bully it. Humph, I would like to see if there are any other terrifying people in the lower district apart from the two sacred leaders. The demonic cord supremacy harumphed. Cut the bullshit, I'll refine your flesh and devour it now. He then reached out his hand, causing black flames to appear on his palm. The black flames were not the same as the flames of the four demons' destructive formation, but a type of demonic soul flame, which was specifically used to burn one's soul. The reason why the demonic cord supremacy was hunted by the two sacred areas was because every time he attacked, he would burn his target's soul, leaving no chance for them to survive. He then flung his hand, causing two demonic soul flames to land on Qin Nan's figure, which turned into scorching flames. Chapter 372. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 374. The Arrival of the Imperial Exterminator. This ain't good. Qin Nan's expression changed greatly. Read the full article. More information at www. The demonic soul fire was invisible. Even the power of the dragon-lined golden core was unable to resist it. Qin Nan's expression turned hideous as he uttered a cry of agony. The demonic soul fire burned his soul, resulting in a sharp pain that was more painful than having his heart being sliced apart. Haha, who asked you to threaten me? The demonic cord highness burst out laughing. Weren't you scornful just then? Why are you so quiet now? I'll strip you of your flesh first. The demonic cord highness let out a hideous laugh. With his current cultivation of the martial highness realm, his cultivation was not strong enough to forcefully devour Qin Nan's flesh, thus he had no choice but to devour Qin Nan's flesh. As for devouring, the first step was to strip the flesh, the second step was to strip the divine sense, and the third step was to strip the soul, which would allow him to eliminate the will of Qin Nan. After that, he would be able to use his demonic martial arts to take over Qin Nan's body. Art of non-appearance. Crimson runes spread out from the body of the demonic cord highness, which gathered on the eyes of the statue, before they were fired into Qin Nan's body. Bang! The flames encapsulating Qin Nan's figure were instantly extinguished, as his flesh, which was full of bloody holes, stiffened all of a sudden, as if he had lost consciousness. Qin Nan's face, which was contorted in pain, immediately froze. He was unable to move, and the cry of agony from his throat was only halfway through. In other words, his current flesh had nothing to do with Qin Nan. I'm stripping your divine sense. The hideous smile on the face of the demonic cord highness grew wider, as his eyes fired two crimson rays into Qin Nan's divine sense. Read the full article. A bloody figure slowly appeared in Qin Nan's divine sense, which turned out to be the demonic cord highness. F***CK. 999 feet? You even cultivated some kind of divine sense cultivation method? The demonic cord venerable was startled. Even when he was at the peak of the martial emperor realm, he did not possess such a powerful divine sense. What is this? The demonic cord highness suddenly saw a copper mirror floating in the middle of the divine sense. It must be a great treasure. The demonic cord highness was immersed in joy when he discovered that he was unable to peek through the copper mirror. This Qin Nan had given him too many surprises. Not only was his flesh powerful, his divine sense was outstanding too, and he even possessed a powerful artifact. At that time, I'll definitely become a supreme being in the lower region. No, I still want to head to the upper region. The demonic cord highness became excited. Without hesitation, he reached out his hand and performed a hand seal to execute the soul sealing technique. Voila! Countless black chains burst out from his body. Like incorporeal serpents, they swarmed towards the sea of consciousness. Love go little say, net kubinji. All of a sudden, A terrifying suppression was emitted from the copper mirror in the middle of the sea of knowledge, as the icy female voice sounded like a clap of thunder from the 9 heavens. "How bold of you!" The demonic Court Highness' expression changed tremendously. This pressure actually made him have a feeling of palpitations. Could it be that this copper mirror was some kind of precious artifact? At that instant, the demonic Court Highness felt like he was facing a great enemy. However, after a period of over 10 breaths' time, the copper mirror showed no reaction, as if the ancient force was being blocked by some unknown force. Haha, it's unable to unleash its full power. The demonic Court Highness was immersed in joy after seeing this. Without hesitation, he immediately executed the soul-sealing technique, causing the countless chains to spread rapidly and seal off the entire sea of knowledge. The ancient copper mirror showed no reaction after being sealed off, allowing the demonic Court Highness to let out a sigh of relief. The aura emitted from the copper mirror was too powerful. Even he was unable to peek through its secret. Now that I've sealed off his flesh and divine sense, it's time to destroy his soul. The demonic Court Highness glanced at Qin Nan with a hint of excitement. This was a peerless genius. Such a talent, treasure, etc. were all going to belong to him. Demonic spiritual fire, refining the void, burn at once. The demonic Court Highness uttered a roar as his entire body was engulfed in flames. A few hundred years ago, he had been hunted down by the 2 martial highnesses, thus he had sealed himself. Although his strength had recovered significantly, it was still far from enough to execute the soul-burning technique. Therefore, he had to burn his life force in exchange for power. Bang! A powerful demonic spiritual fire was emitted from the statue of the demonic Court Highness, which was 10 times stronger than the previous 2 flames, thoroughly encapsulating Qin Nan's figure. Following this, an illusionary figure of Qin Nan slowly floated out from Qin Nan's body with a painful expression. This Qin Nan was none other than Qin Nan's soul, his will. Demonic Court, Martial Highness. You, better stop, or else. While crying out in pain, Qin Nan uttered a message. Damn it, you still dare to threaten me under such circumstances. Burn at once. The demonic Court Highness became enraged. Although this guy was quite talented, there was something wrong with his brain. Daring to threaten me now. Following his anger, the demonic spiritual fire burned even more fiercely, causing the glow of Qin Nan's illusionary figure to become increasingly faint, as if it would disappear at any second. The demonic Court Highness was immersed in joy after seeing this, who could not help but burst out laughing. Haha, Qin Nan, did you see that? Once I'm done burning your soul, you will no longer exist in this world, and I will own your heavens. His laughter came to a halt all of a sudden, as the expression on his face stiffened. Buzz 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 buzz. All of a sudden, the sky above the island began to tremble violently. An invisible pressure that caused people to feel anxious and uneasy began to spread. Shush! A piercing sound could be heard all of a sudden. A black saber appeared above the island as if it had traveled across a boundless space. A murderous aura surged into the heavens and earth like a broken dam. This is, the demonic Court Highness was startled. Why did this black saber feel so familiar to him, as if he had seen it somewhere before? However, for some reason, he could not recall where he had seen it before. Bang! The space above the island suddenly collapsed, as an old man slowly walked out from the gap. The old man slowly held the black saber in his hand, as he glanced downward with a pair of deep eyes, before glancing at the island. Who is this guy, to be able to see through my forbidding aura? The demonic Court Highness' face turned pale. He could sense that the old man's cultivation was extremely terrifying. Now that he had been discovered, it was definitely going to be a disaster. Burn at once. The demonic Court Highness instantly became enraged. Either way, his priority was to merge with Qin Nan. If this guy was an expert from one of the two sacred areas, after discovering that Qi Nan had been merged with his sacred area, he would not harm him. Instead, he would allow him to join the sacred area due to his talent. Once Qi Nan was dead, Qi Nan would be worthless, thus he would not be able to avenge him. The old man wore a calm expression as he did not stop him, but said in a calm tone, "Who are you?" "I'm Tang Qingshan." Bang! It was as if a clap of thunder had exploded in the demonic Court Highness' mind, causing his movement to come to a halt. Chapter 373. Genius 1 second. Remember love divided by go divided by little? SegNet, providing you with interesting novels to read. C_T. Chapter 375. Taboo. At that instant, the demonic Court Highness finally came to a realization. No wonder the black saber was so familiar to him, it was Tang Qingshan's saber. As soon as the black saber was unleashed, no one within 5 li would be left alive. Tang Qingshan, you're still alive. The demonic Court Highness collected his thoughts and wore a blank expression. His pupils contracted to the size of needles, and even his voice was trembling. Previously, he had been quite famous in the lower district, but despite that, he had never been able to match the brilliance of a single person. This person was none other than Tang Qingshan. He would not be afraid if the peak leaders of the two sacred areas were to show up, but Tang Qingshan's arrival was enough to terrify him. The fear in his heart was surging out continuously like a surging tide. This was Tang Qingshan, the legend of the lower district. Even when he was at his peak, he would still be intimidated by him, and would never dare to provoke him. But now Tang Qingshan was still alive. Not only was he alive, but he had even come here personally. Why was that? Was it because of this Qi Nan? What kind of power did this Qi Nan have, to be able to make Tang Qingshan show up for him? A Love Go Little said, Chu advertisement, -79. I remember you now. You're the one who treated me to a drink. Your name is Demonic Cord? I guess. A Love Go Little said, Chu. Tang Qingshan said with an expressionless face, since we're acquainted, there's no need to waste time. You have 2 choices. 1. Be my servant for life. 2. Die. Bang. The demonic Court Highness felt like his heart had received a heavy blow, causing him to feel suffocated. Be his servant for life. How was it possible for a martial highness like him? As for death, he was even more unwilling to die. However, the demonic Court Highness clearly knew that as long as Tang Qingshan said it, he would definitely make it happen. All of a sudden, the demonic Court Highness recalled Qi Nan's words, causing him to feel a burning sensation on his face. Qi Nan had tried to persuade him in a serious manner, but he had completely ignored it. However, the demonic Court Highness was extremely regretful now. If he knew that Tang Qingshan would show up, he would not dare to provoke Qi Nan. There are almost all the books you want to read. It's much more stable than the average website, and it updates faster. It's all text without advertisements. Can we? The demonic Cord Venerable Master held back the endless fear in his heart and stuttered. He did not have the demeanor of a venerable master at all. Tang Qingshan's eyes, Tang Qingshan's eyes, Tang Qingshan's Highness Qin, little Tang Qingshan's. The tiny movement caused the demonic Court Highness' heart to explode with thunderbolts when he saw it. Shit! Tang Qingshan was going to attack. At that instant, a rare occurrence took place. The space above the island was torn apart, as 3 figures stepped out from it, who turned out to be the Duanmu Mountain Lord, Peak Leader Zhang and Peak Leader Luo. A Love Go Little say, they had immediately sent their clones here after receiving Tang Qingshan's message, and had arrived in time. What? The demonic Court Highness could feel his scalp turning numb. He was extremely familiar with these faces. Previously in the lower district, These 4 people, together with her, had stirred a great storm and created a series of miracles. However, after the incident, Tang Qingshan had been surrounded by the 2 sacred areas, thus the 3 of them had gone their separate ways and rarely showed themselves. Why would they show up at the same time now? Could it be that they were here for Qin Nan? Demonic cord. The Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others instantly recognized the demonic cord highness. They did not expect this guy to be alive until now. Die. Tang Qingshan did not waste any time. Following the words, the heavens and earth were filled with a boundless murderous intent. Stop it! As the demonic cord highness was about to die, he unleashed the demonic spiritual fire, which burned Qin Nan's soul until it was almost transparent. Following this, he uttered a raging roar. Stop it at once! If you dare to interfere, I'll completely destroy his soul. At most, we'll die together. Tang Qingshan's movement came to a halt. The eyes of the Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others sharpened. Shah! Imperial Exterminator! And you 3 from the Duanmu Mountain! The demonic cord highness swallowed his saliva and clenched his teeth. I didn't know this kid was so closely related to you guys. It's my fault this time. Can you spare my life and I'll let him go? Spare your life? Tang Qingshan said with an expressionless face. In your dreams. Shush. Following this, Tang Qingshan's figure dashed forward and arrived above the demonic cord highness. The demonic cord highness could feel his scalp turning numb as he uttered a roar. Tang Qingshan, since you're trying to kill me, I'll let him die with me. In the meantime, he unleashed the demonic spiritual fire in Qin Nan's direction, burning fiercely. Save him! The Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others had been secretly preparing their martial skills. Upon seeing this, they immediately executed their spatial teleportation to move Qin Nan's figure away. After all, the demonic cord highness had yet to recover his cultivation. It was impossible for him to kill Qin Nan in an instant in front of them. The black saber in Tang Qingshan's hand showed no mercy as he slashed at the demonic cord highness' head. However, right at this moment, as Qin Nan's soul was being burned continuously by the demonic spiritual fire, it was as if an atavistic force was about to be awakened deep inside his soul. Bang! 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 At the same time, a series of shocking explosions took place in the sky above the island. The sky was instantly trampled, as various forces of wind, lightning, fire, and lightning wreaked havoc in the sky. At that instant, Tang Qingshan's expression changed for the first time. The Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others were startled as well. The expression on the demonic cord highness' face stiffened as well. The reason being that they could sense a terrifying force, which had surpassed the strength of the martial highness realm and everything else. You deserve to die for violating the taboo. An icy atavistic voice exploded in the sky as a giant object slowly appeared. However, its figure was encapsulated by an invisible force, preventing anyone from peeking through it. This is... The expressions of Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu Mountain Lord, and the others changed tremendously. As for the demonic cord highness, he was completely dumbfounded. Violating the taboo? What taboo? Could it be that this Qin Nan was the taboo? Before the 4 could recover from their astonishment, the space within 100 li suddenly shattered as an ancient, magnificent figure rose from the rift, emitting a terrifying aura. How bold! Following a loud roar, it was as if the heavens and earth were about to collapse. The person was none other than the sacred Lord Blue Dragon. Chapter 374. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? We provide you with wonderful novels to read. C_T. Chapter 376, Unconventional Pill Almanac Master. Sacred Leader. The Duanmu Mountain Lord and his crew were startled. Read the full article. Even Tang Qingshan was stunned in place. What was going on? Why was Master here in person? Everyone knew that they had spent the longest time with the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, thus they were the most familiar with him. In their memories, it was extremely difficult for the sacred Lord Blue Dragon to appear in person. Even during the selection of the two sacred areas, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon had only appeared due to the presence of sacred leader Feiyong. Not to mention that this time, it was only because Qin Nan was in danger. There was something else too. What exactly was that giant object floating in the sky? Why was it here? What was the taboo that it mentioned? Countless questions flashed across their minds at the speed of lightning. In the end, they came up with a single conclusion. The conclusion was that Qin Nan was even more mysterious than they had imagined. Meanwhile, the demonic court highness was utterly dumbfounded. The knowledge that he had accumulated over a few hundred years in the lower district was no longer enough for him to comprehend. Qin Nan was indeed a peerless genius. The arrival of the Imperial Exterminator and his crew had already left him in a great shock, and now a mysterious presence, and the sacred Lord Blue Dragon, had appeared too? Are you King kidding me? That's the sacred Lord Blue Dragon we're talking about. And that mysterious presence, extremely terrifying. Just because Qin Nan was slightly threatened, these terrifying authorities had all arrived here? Die. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon glanced at the demonic court highness and uttered a roar. Quick update, refreshing website with few advertisements. I love this kind of website the most, please leave a good comment. All of a sudden, the demonic court highness expression changed tremendously. His body began to crumble rapidly, as if it were being crushed by some ancient force. His words were law, the might of a saint. Lord Holy Master, please spare my life. I'm willing to be your servant. The demonic court venerable screamed. He had once been hunted down by the experts of the two sacred areas, but he had sealed himself away for 100 years and turned the martial ancestor mystical ground into a trap. Now that he was finally going to rebuild his flesh, he would not be willing to die just like that. What dignity! It was all bullsh*t. His 100 years of desire to live could not be wasted like this, even if it was as a servant. Love go little Sei-ku, you are not qualified to be his servant, but I can give you a chance. Turn yourself into the unorthodox pill ceremony and assist Qin Nan. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon said expressionlessly. The destructive aura of the demonic court highness came to a stop too. What? You want me to become the uncommon pill ceremony's assistant? The demonic court venerable's expression changed drastically. The uncommon pill ceremony was an ancient scripture of pill alchemy that the demonic court highness had stumbled upon when he was young. The demonic court highness had refined countless pills with the help of the scripture. However, due to his strange method of refining the pills, the others had referred to him as the demonic court pill. Currently, the demonic court highness no longer had his flesh, leaving only the force of the martial highness realm. It went without saying that he could merge with the unconventional pill almanac, allowing the unconventional pill almanac to turn into a peerless artifact instead of a manual. If he were to become a servant of the Qinglong sacred area, he would be able to achieve the martial sacred realm in the future, thus clearing his identity as a servant. However, if he were to merge himself with the uncommon pill ceremony, the chance of that happening would be extremely slim. Even the Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others felt that the sacred Lord Blue Dragon's request was too harsh. After all, the demonic court highness had achieved the martial highness realm and was considered an authority of the lower district. It was extremely rare to recruit him as a servant, let alone sacrificing himself to help Qin Nan. It's your honor to be able to assist it, and you're still hesitating? You've made a huge mistake today. On behalf of the people, we shall suppress you. At that instant, an icy voice could be heard from the blurry giant object in the sky. Bang! An atavistic force descended from the sky all of a sudden and struck the demonic Court Highness figure like a meteor. The demonic Court Highness expression changed tremendously. He only managed to utter a single word before his body began to shrink on its own, as if he were being grabbed by two giant hands and squeezed toward the center. In less than half a breath's time, he was squeezed into a scripture. The scripture was made of an ancient rock, with countless runes engraved on its surface. A faint force of the martial highness realm could be felt from it. This, Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu mountain lord, and the others were utterly terrified. Even though the demonic Court Highness was no longer a martial highness, his cultivation was still incredibly powerful. However, he was unable to resist this mysterious presence, and was forced to merge himself with the uncommon pill ceremony? Even a martial sacred would not be able to do such a thing. Merge. As the scripture was formed, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon flicked his finger, causing the uncommon pill ceremony to fly forward and enter Qin Nan's body. Bang! Qin Nan's soul instantly returned to his body, while the seals on his divine sense and flesh were slowly removed. Furthermore, after the uncommon pill ceremony merged with his body, a powerful force was emitted, which healed his injuries. However, Qin Nan was currently unconscious, thus he had no idea what was happening. The Qinglong sacred area stared at him for a moment before preparing to leave. To their surprise, the mysterious giant object in the sky suddenly spoke. Cultivator Qinglong, a mere martial sacred is able to see through my disguise. Who exactly are you? Tang Qingshan, the Duanmu mountain lord, and the others shuddered violently. This sentence contained another layer of meaning. The sacred Lord Blue Dragon let out a sigh and said, "There's no need for you to guess who I am. It's not good for you. Besides, it's better if you don't show yourselves again. After all, every move you make will be watched." After saying this, the sacred Lord Blue Dragon stepped into the rift without turning his head around. However, as the rift completely closed, his voice could be heard once again. "Qingshan, try your best. I won't blame you." Tang Qingshan's figure shuddered violently. Meanwhile, the mysterious giant object in the sky was actually the Martial Serendipity Pavilion. In the fifth layer of the Martial Serendipity Pavilion, the examiners of the first, second, third, and fourth rounds, and the mysterious young man were utterly astonished. They had only interfered because they did not want Qin Nan's secret to be exposed, thus they had decided to intervene personally. However, to their surprise, a mere martial sacred was able to see through their identities. Furthermore, this martial sacred seemed to know the secret of this continent. How could a mere martial sacred be able to do that? Who exactly is he? Chapter 375. A Genius Remembering Love in 1 Second? Here's a fascinating novel for you to read. C_T. Chapter 377, Six-Lined Nascent Soul. The giant object in the sky did not stay for too long after the sacred Lord Blue Dragon left, as it swiftly vanished into thin air, returning the island to a peaceful state. Advertisement. That was fast. This incident has completely exceeded our expectations. The Duanmu mountain lord was the first to speak, breaking the silence. There's no need for us to guess what Master and the others are thinking. Peak Leader Zhang spoke in a calm tone. We only need to know that when the Ocean of Death is activated once again, he will be our hope. I agree with Third Brother's words, Peak Leader Luo said. Tang Qingshan remained silent. The Duanmu mountain lord burst out laughing and said, Third Brother is right. However, when the Ocean of Death is activated, I believe that the two sects of the eastern continent of the Upper District will arrive soon, right? Let's hope that the Ocean of Death will pass peacefully, and Qin Nan will represent our Qinglong sacred area and join the two sects. Peak Leader Zhang and Peak Leader Luo nodded their heads, before glancing at Tang Qingshan. They remained silent after seeing his silence, before they switched their gazes onto Qin Nan's figure. Now that he had acquired the unconventional pill almanac, how strong would Qin Nan's cultivation be? At that instant, Qin Nan's divine sense was in complete darkness. The main reason being that the demonic court highness had used the demonic soul flame to refine his soul, causing him to suffer serious injuries. Even with the unconventional pill almanac healing his body, it still took him a total of 24 hours before his consciousness was finally awakened from the tide of darkness. What happened to me? Qin Nan's eyes were filled with a blank expression. Qin Nan, the demonic court highness, your lifetime achievement was all thanks to the atypical pill almanac. Now that the demonic court highness has fallen, his force of the martial highness realm has been merged with the atypical pill almanac, allowing it to evolve into a rare treasure. You should refine it properly, as it will bring you countless benefits. At that instant, Tang Qingshan's voice echoed in Qin Nan's mind. Senior. Qin Nan's spirit was lifted. He opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. He realized that not only was Tang Qingshan there, but the Duanmu Mountain Lord and the other two were there as well. He hurriedly wanted to salute them, but a wave of heat came from his sea of consciousness. The Duanmu Mountain Lord and the others immediately sensed it and shook their heads with a smile. Qin Nan hurriedly withdrew his will and probed into his sea of knowledge. There was no change in his sea of knowledge. However, at the edge of his sea of knowledge, an ancient stone scripture was floating. Full text reading: This is the bizarre pill ceremony. Qin Nan held his breath. Although he was clueless as to what had just happened, he was able to tell the value of the bizarre pill almanac from Tang Qingshan's words. However, he was confused as to why the bizarre pill almanac was floating at the edge of his sea of knowledge. Is it afraid of it? Qin Nan was slightly startled, as he instantly felt that the mysterious copper mirror was like an emperor that would not allow anyone to invade its territory. Even a rare treasure like the bizarre pill almanac could only stand aside before it. This copper mirror, Qin Nan could not help but have a higher impression of it. Without further hesitation, he quickly focused his attention onto the bizarre pill almanac. The original stone scripture appeared to be extremely thick, but it only consisted of 10 pages. However, each page was extremely thick, as if it contained a great amount of secrets. My will, refine it. Qin Nan uttered a roar as the dragon-lined golden core in his body emitted a buzzing sound, which transformed into a drop of blood in his divine sense and merged with it. In the beginning, a cultivator would need to drip a drop of blood to refine a magical treasure. However, after reaching a certain level, one would need to transform one's will into blood and drip it onto the magical treasure. That way, the magical treasure would instantly become one with the cultivator, and there would be no distinction between the two. Bang! As soon as the bizarre pill almanac was refined, its aura merged with Qin Nan's body. Following this, a mysterious force burst out from it and surged into the dragon-lined golden core. Love go little say, W Chu, this is the aura of the demonic court highness. No, to be precise, this is the purest force of the demonic court highness. Qin Nan's eyes turned fiery. Although the demonic court highness cultivation was not as strong as before, not only did his purest force contain the secrets of the martial highness realm, it also contained a tremendous amount of energy. At that instant, the aura of the dragon-lined golden core rose rapidly, as the will it contained leveled up. Bang! The blazing sun golden armor body technique in Qin Nan's body was activated on its own, resulting in a blazing flame. However, the flame was different than before, as it was golden in color, emitting a powerful aura. Furthermore, a golden fiery cloak could be seen on his back, which danced wildly despite the absence of wind. Not only was the power of the blazing sun golden armor body technique transformed, but it was also emitting a fiery aura. Each of his actions felt like an atavistic god of fire. Dang. At that instant, following a loud chime, an illusionary figure of a bell surrounded by countless beasts appeared above Qin Nan's head, resulting in a loud chime, which not only echoed in the air, but also penetrated deep into one's soul. The demonic art of heart-calming was no longer ordinary, as it contained a powerful destructive force. The chime of the bell was enough to send one to hell. Saber intent. Qin Nan uttered a thunderous roar. Even though he did not give any order, the 7 great sins flew out from his storage bag and floated in midair. Each saber emitted a shocking saber intent, as if they were sentient. Left eye of the divine god of battle. Qin Nan shouted in a low voice. The dragon-marked golden core was his strongest killing move. Through the dragon-marked golden core, he could use the blazing flame golden armor body formula, the heart-cleansing demonic art, the saber will, and the like to unleash boundless power. However, Qin Nan's greatest strength was his left eye of the divine god of battle. Only the combination of the left eye of the divine god of battle and the dragon-lined golden core could unleash its full power. Even the heavenly accumulating strike was no match for it. Boom! The golden glow disappeared from the left eye of the divine god of battle, as a purple-colored ray of lightning burst out from it. Following this, the purple-colored ray of lightning expanded rapidly, and only stopped after a total of 33 rays had appeared, causing the left eye to look like an electric eye, emitting a purple glow, which was even more intimidating than before. Qin Nan suddenly realized that not only was the peaking ability of his left eye of the divine god of battle stronger, it also possessed a hint of the force of thunder. However, the force of thunder was too weak, thus he was unable to detect it for the time being. It seemed like the new ability of the left eye of the divine god of battle had begun to show itself. Last but not least, the dragon-lined golden core. Qin Nan took a deep breath. 9 golden lines represented a supreme being, while a dragon-lined golden core was considered laudifying. Would the dragon-lined golden core rank up to the martial ancestor realm with the help of the unconventional pill alchemy ceremony, or would it transform into something else? Bang! 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 As the martial skills leveled up, the dragon-lined golden core emitted a series of explosions, before it finally calmed down. However, the golden core no longer existed, but was slowly evolving. Hands and legs grew out from the core, elongating continuously. Facial features appeared, and the outline of a body appeared. It sat with its legs crossed, looking exactly like Qin Nan. The dragon-lined golden core had transformed into a nascent soul. The nascent soul had the shape of a human. Humans were the creations of the heavens and earth, and the spirit of all living things. Previously, the inner core was merely a combination of the martial skills, one's will, etc. It was considered a dead object. Now that it had transformed into the shape of a human, even though it did not possess intelligence, it now possessed a spirit. As such, the name of a martial ancestor realm expert was derived from it. Martial ancestor, martial ancestor, martial master. It referred to the fact that the inner core had transformed into a spirit, allowing the martial skills, will, etc., to possess a spirit. The blazing sun golden armor body technique, and the heart-calming demon expelling technique that Qin Nan had acquired previously were incomplete, but they had now reached the pinnacle of the inner core. However, after the formation of the nascent soul, the transformation had yet to come to an end. On the nascent soul, golden dragon tattoos slowly came out from the inside and surrounded the small person. They wrapped around the small person for a total of 6 times before they stopped. 6 dragon-lined golden nascent soul? Qin Nan was slightly shocked. At that instant, his aura began to rise rapidly. Although it was only at the peak of the martial emperor realm, it was no different from the 6th layer martial ancestor realm aura. Previously, the aura of the 6th dragon-lined golden core was only equivalent to the 3rd layer martial emperor realm, but now, the 6th dragon-lined golden core was on par with the cultivation of the martial ancestor realm. Meanwhile, on the island, the 3 peak leaders and Tang Qingshan were astounded, who immediately opened their eyes and glanced toward Qin Nan. This, with a single glance, the 4 of them were shocked. Such an aura, could it be that Qin Nan's nascent soul was a 6th dragon-line nascent soul? Could it be that Qin Nan was going to form a law-defying nascent soul after forming his inner core? He's going to embark on a completely different path. Tang Qingshan remained silent for a moment, before he slowly spoke. He was well aware of Qin Nan's current condition, as his inner core and nascent soul were no longer the same after practicing the Imperial Mortal Scriptures. It's a success. Qin Nan was unaware of the reactions of the crowd, as his heart was filled with a hint of joy. He had benefited the most from merging with the unconventional pill almanac. All of a sudden, the unconventional pill almanac shuddered violently, as countless glows were emitted from it, which penetrated deep into Qin Nan's divine sense. A tremendous pain instantly exploded in Qin Nan's mind. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.